The more we learn about Renee Good, the sadder this story gets. This is a woman who put politics first in her life, above her family, above anything spiritually, and that is part of what led to her death the other day in Minneapolis. Good morning. It is 6:04 on a Friday. I'm glad you're here on KCMO Talk Radio. So we learned more from the New York Post in some reporting yesterday as to why Renee Good, who was shot and killed by an ICE officer 2 days ago in Minneapolis, ended up leaving Kansas City. And it turns out that the Goods, Renee Good and her partner Rebecca, had no love lost for President Trump. I know that's going to shock you.
Talk about a bombshell.
They left Kansas City, and it's believed they were in Waldo for Canada after the 2024 election with plans to leave the country for good. They lived up there for a few months before settling back in Minneapolis. That is what a former neighbor told Channel 9 KMBC. So this is basically the Kansas City version of Rosie O'Donnell. That's what this, these people, I give them credit for those that say, if Trump wins, I'm leaving the country, and they actually leave. I'll give them credit for actually being of their word and sticking to their word. But anyone who says that, any American who says that about a president that they don't like, if you're a Republican and you say, if Biden wins, I'm out. I'm going to, I don't know where you want to go. That's more capitalistic and more free than here, but, I'm leaving the country. Okay. And we know there's a lot of that, obviously, from Hollywood and elsewhere when it came to Trump over the last 10 years or so. This woman put her politics above everything else in her life. And as someone who does this for a living, who talks about news and sports and politics and pop culture, I'm telling you, it's not healthy. It's not. You cannot be so consumed with your political ideology that it becomes the thing that defines who you are. I don't do that. I know people sometimes perceive that from the outside, but trust me, most of the people that I hang out with, and when you're chasing 3 kids around, there's not a lot of free time. But most of the people that I spend time with outside of this building are people who have nothing to do with politics, whether it's family or friends or otherwise. Most of the conversations I have outside of this building, and even inside of this building, to be honest, away from this microphone, have nothing to do with politics. It doesn't mean it doesn't come up. It doesn't mean it's not part of what I'm interested in talking about and discussing and debating once in a while, but it can't consume you. Your political identity should never consume you and should never be the number one identifier for who and what you are. And when you do that, whether you're Renee Good on the left or you're somebody on the right, I made the analogy yesterday between Ashley Babbitt, the one woman who was killed on January 6th by a cop entering the Capitol, and Renee Good, saying both were consumed by politics, both made dumb decisions, neither necessarily deserve to be killed, but when you do dumb things and you put yourself in very dangerous situations, you run the risk of losing your life. And while the left will make Renee Good into a martyr and some on the right have made Ashley Babbitt into a martyr, I actually think there's more in common there. They're 2 people that made major mistakes, that put themselves both at massive risk, and unfortunately, the worst outcome happened for each of them. And some of you might disagree with that. That's fine. I put it up on Facebook yesterday, Pete Mundo on KCMO Talk Radio, and it got, hundreds of comments from both sides getting mad about it. But it's true. You cannot let your politics consume your identity. And it's clear, as I read about Renee Good yesterday in this New York Post piece, that's what she did. They write here about her. Renee Good was a Minneapolis Ice Watch warrior who trained to resist feds before shooting. This was a mother of three juveniles. Her youngest was 6 years old. And she's working as an anti-ICE warrior. She has put her political allegiance above her family. Does that mean she deserved to die the other day? No, not necessarily. But it's just, to me, it's a learning lesson for all of us that you've got to put this stuff into perspective. You can't let it consume you on either side the way that Renee Good clearly did. Now, she moved to the city last year after going from Kansas City to Canada down to Minneapolis. And it says here in the New York Post, she linked up with the anti-ICE activists through her 6-year-old son's woke charter school, which boasts that it puts social justice first and prioritizes involving kids in political and social activism. What are we doing in our schools? We have fallen so far when it comes to what our schools were intended to be and the value of what they were intended to do, that now they're just basically political factories for the woke left. That's not healthy for the kids. I mean, if you want your kid to be a liberal, whatever, okay? I mean, obviously, I'm raising my kids with traditional values. If you want to raise your kids a certain way, it's not illegal to do that with your values. But my goodness, you've got the schools in Minneapolis, at least this charter school, prioritizing involving kids in social and political activism. How about math and science and reading? How about that?
I guess you can have Christian schools. You can have...
Got to put your mic on.
Sorry. You can have Christian schools. You can have woke schools. I guess you could have those type of schools.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's exactly right, Mark. Now listen, I think there's a lot of reasons to not put your kids in a self-described woke school that is all about social justice. But to your point, it's not illegal, and you can raise your children with your own values as you see fit. But man, I mean, whether it's a Christian school or a woke school or whatever school, can we put, I know that Christian schools will obviously put God ahead of math and reading, and that makes sense. And I guess on the other side, they're putting woke ahead of math and reading. But boy, that seems like an awfully, that's a great disservice to the kids is what that ultimately is, John.
I work with a radio host, and he used to have his young daughter recite limericks, and she wouldn't say the words, but they were like Andrew Dice Clay, you knew the limerick. And so people would be mad, listeners, say, hey, that's child abuse when you tell a kid to say something like that. And I'm just kind of making the jump going, we're not helping these kids.
No.
Kids are worried about what's for dinner.
Yes.
Is mom mad at me? Can we go here or whatever?
Yes.
And it's a shame what we're doing to children.
They want to be kids. Mine are 7, 4, and soon to be 2. They want to be kids. And even when I talk about how to raise my kids and how I raise my kids when it comes to, traditional values, that doesn't mean that, every day we say our prayer before dinner and say, thank you to President Trump. Like, his name never comes up. The politics never come up, right? It's not a part of what we talk about. The only time political things come up in our house with the kids is when they stumble downstairs last Saturday and they see bombings in Caracas on TV. And then I got to explain, at least to Claire, the oldest, what's going on. But that's about it. Like, that's the extent of it. Politics are not a part of our everyday discussion in our household with our young children because, 1,
nobody cares.
And 2, it's not appropriate. Let them be children.
Right. And you address their questions, and that's what you want to do. But you got to address it on their level.
Yes.
You used to hear things about these Royals, they suck. I don't know. I take my kid to the ballpark. I don't know what to tell them. I'm like, dude, the kid's there for Dippin' Dots. They don't care about the batting average.
Oh, they just don't. They don't. They're there to have a good time. They're there to be kids.
Yep.
And when you have schools that are so hyper-focused on social justice that it's driving parents who clearly, let's be honest, and this is not to knock Renee Good, who's now dead, but clearly needed help. Because when you let yourself get consumed by this stuff, where you're going out there as a parent of a 6-year-old, as a Minneapolis ice watcher and putting yourself and as a result your family in danger, what are you doing? drop the 6-year-old off at school and then, try to get in the way of ICE doing its job for the afternoon? My gosh. This is sad. And this is what happens when a country continues to lose, as we have, a spiritual element to what we are. Something's going to fill that void. And in the case of too many people, on the left certainly, and even some on the right, they have filled that void with politics. And it's helping destroy this country. 913-408-7957. That is the text line and the studio line. Today is the last day this week to get entered to win tickets and a meet and greet with Riley Green at Stagecoach coming up this summer in California. First chance to win is at 7:30. Then your next chance at 10:30 during Keatsman's show, 1:30 in the Vince show, and 4:30 in the Guy Benson show. Great to have you here on a busy Friday morning. Nick Haines will be our in-studio Feature Friday guest. It is weird to be sitting here Friday of NFL playoff weekend, and we're not talking Chiefs. No one's got their red on this morning. Mark's got his Oregon Ducks hat rocking today. He's fired up for tonight. I mean, Mark, you latch on to any team you can, buddy. You're Portland, you're Kansas City, and now you're Oregon.
It's all where I've lived mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw Mark at the Oregon. Oh, yeah. Northwest. He's got folks up there, got people.
Yeah, well, once the Ducks go downhill, he's going to be a Washington Huskies fan. Just watch. He's going to claim the entire Pacific Northwest pretty soon is what he's going to do.
That's fair.
I was born in Seattle.
Yeah, that's right.
Technically, I could go for that.
Okay. All right. You got to claim the fame everywhere, don't you?
When I was a child, I didn't realize that the Huskies and the Ducks were rivals, so it was a little confusing for me.
Well, that's good for you. Mark's going to claim he's soon a New York Knicks fan because he once had a layover in New York City for a plane ride or something.
No way. Not doing that.
You're stretching it, man. You are stretching it. In the meantime, a local assistant principal has resigned amid allegations of inappropriate behavior. We'll tell you who, what happened, and an email I got from a parent on this story next.
Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Stick around. I'm coming up at 10 o'clock right after Pete Mundo on KCMO 95.7 FM.
We got this story coming up here on KCMO. A local assistant principal has resigned amid allegations of inappropriate behavior. Of course, we're hearing from you all morning at 913-408-7957, continuing to learn more about what happened in Minneapolis. Renee Good, the woman who got shot and killed by the ICE agent, she was in Kansas City, left for Canada after Donald Trump got elected, and then ends up down in Minneapolis, has her 6-year-old in a social justice charter school where she became basically radicalized. Andrew's in Lewisburg. Andrew, good morning. You're on KCMO.
Hey, good morning, Pete. So it seems like by very definition, this woman could be labeled as a zealot. This is radicalization's final form, essentially, where someone is willing to either kill or die for the cause once they reach a certain point. And I feel like this is indicative of where the left is heading with all this radicalization, is building this army of people that are willing to do these illogical things.
Well, and I would add to that, Andrew, I think it's a good point, and say that zealots have become, I think, more common in recent years as the tribalism has gotten worse and religion has gotten, unfortunately, less common, and they have replaced that with being a zealot from a political lens. I think you probably have a lot of that going on. You're right.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
So thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. Yeah, and here's what I'll add to that. I don't know if Renee Good would call herself a zealot, right? I think a lot of these people, admittedly, are mentally unstable and never think the end result is going to be, in her case, what it ends up being. I don't think they honestly think through it. I don't think they think that far ahead. I don't think they think beyond the moment. And that can be a very dangerous thing. So you're right about that, Andrew. The political zealot has unfortunately become a broader part of the American political conversation. And by the way, you have politicians fanning those flames. They want zealots. They want to replace religion in your life. They want to replace family in your life. They want to be the thing that consumes you all day, every day. That's what they want. It's good for them. They're running their cults in many respects. And they want to make sure that you are a dutiful cult member. And that's not good. Don't fall for it on either side. But I do think it's more common on the left than it is on the right, because the right still does have a strong spiritual lens to what it does. The left's religion is their politics. But, it can happen on the right side too. So up in Oak Park, an assistant principal has resigned and is under investigation after students made allegations against him on social media. The North Kansas City School District said one of the assistant principals at Oak Park High School resigned after returning from winter break. The district said it learned of allegations involving the man and someone who previously graduated from Oak Park. The district said here in a statement, our HR team immediately opened up an investigation into the matter. In accordance with our standard practice, he was placed on administrative leave. He has since submitted his resignation and will not be returning to any role within the district. We take all reports seriously and are conducting a thorough investigation. It's also important to understand that school districts are governed by privacy laws that prevent us from discussing the details of an ongoing investigation. So I got an email from a parent last night, and he has 2 daughters in the North Kansas City School District. He says that this news does not come as a surprise to his family. He adds here in this email to me that he has written multiple times to administrators up in the Northland. And if you're a parent up there, you can make up a name. You do not have to reveal your identity. I would just be curious to hear from you. Because this parent writes to me and he says, I've written to school administrators regarding several instances. For example, so-called pronouns and these cards are placed to every classroom entrance with the teacher's names. They have now been removed. Adds here, a vendor instructed sexual harassment class, mostly about so-called critical queer theory topics, and handing out rainbow flag stickers at the end. He notes here, Gateway 6th grade center. Book report limited to 8 books to choose from, one called George, a transgender book. He adds here, Oak Park advocacy class, a United Nations propaganda class of all the main topics. He says here, at Oak Park High, a teacher on September 10th in the 4th hour was told that Charlie Kirk was just shot. Her response was, quote, I hope he dies. There are many other examples that this parent has shared with me on this email of concerning things happening at Oak Park High School. And he suggested that when stuff like this has popped up, he has not been surprised at all by any of it. And I know that there are parents who are out there who are feeling the same way regarding their area school, their public school. And it's a darn shame that this even has to be part of the conversation. I mean, it's one thing if you're sitting there and you're saying, boy, my kid's got to get better at science. My kid's got to get better at math. I'm not totally sure that this school can help my kid in this area that they need help with. It's a totally different thing. It's next level to be out there being like, boy, I hope my kid doesn't have to announce his or her pronouns when they introduce themselves on the first day of sophomore year high school. Like, that's something that nobody should have to worry about. But it's becoming more common. And don't kid yourself. It's in the Northland. It's in Johnson County. It's in Lee Summit. There's not an area of the metro that I can tell that's entirely safe from it. Now, you might find pockets, and that's great. We've had good experiences so far in an elementary school, but as they go up through the years, middle, high school, it seems like no one's safe from any of this craziness. And that is a total disservice to the kids. And if these stories come out in the wake of this allegation, that would be a good thing. A very good thing. News coming up in 2 minutes on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. It's a Friday, and I'll tell you what, I finally paid off that ticket from 2 months ago. It was a doozy. I'll tell you about it next.
This is KCMO Talk Radio.
They're a part of the community.
On Friday's Guy Benson Show, former Attorney General Bill Barr will be here on Venezuela, Minnesota, and beyond. Coming up at 2 o'clock on 95.7 KCMO.
Oak Park, you've got an assistant principal who is resigned amid allegations of inappropriate behavior. And I've already gotten emails from parents up there who are not happy with how that district has operated by and large, and they believe that that's filtered into some of what's gone on within the school district over the last couple of years. Sam is in the Northland, and Sam has a granddaughter in the district. Sam, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, this situation, go back a minute. Pete, I really appreciate your show. I listen to you every morning, and you're not afraid to tackle any issue that affects our community up here in the Northland or anywhere else in the city.
You bet, Sam. Thanks so much, man. What's going on up there in the district?
Well, this has gone on for more than just here recently. Information I received that it's been over a year. They've had problems with more than one teacher up there with issues like this. And my granddaughter told me last night that the students are organizing a walkout for this afternoon up there at the school because they haven't addressed this problem.
Because they're having a what problem?
Because they haven't addressed this problem with other adults up there.
Oh, because they have not addressed the problem with other adults.
Right. It hadn't just happened. They should have addressed this a long time ago, but they failed to do so.
Are the allegations, I mean, from what your granddaughter is telling you, that whether it's this assistant principal or anybody, is it relationships between employees and students?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's I'm not going to get explicit in it, but it's not proper for any of this stuff to be going on.
And you're saying that the students believe that this is not a one-off?
Right.
Wow. And this specific... sorry, go ahead there, Sam.
But, all the things they allow in these schools to teach these kids these days leads to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's no boundaries. There's no morality in, anything they teach your kids these days, it seems like.
Well, and that's what the email was that I received last night from a parent, and he just said, the sexualization of everything is certainly is not maybe the direct cause, but it doesn't help at all. And that was the allegation from the parent last night. And it sounds to me that's exactly what you're saying as well.
Yes.
Wow.
That's for sure.
Oh, boy.
I could miss some other things that I've seen firsthand up there. And I graduated from Oak Park back in 1967, and it's not the same school whatsoever.
Well, yeah, 60 years. That's It's been a minute for you there, Sam. But you're right. A lot's changed, my friend. Hey, thanks for checking in. Thanks for sharing that, and keep us posted if you're willing to.
Yes.
All right. That's Sam in the Northland on KCMO Talk Radio. His granddaughter's at Oak Park, and he says there's going to be a walkout today from the students because they are not happy with how the district has handled these allegations. And it sounds like it may not be exclusive to just this assistant principal who has now resigned. I'm not usually a big fan of school walkouts because usually it's kids just trying to basically get out of science class or whatever, right? This will be the first time I fully endorse my complete and total endorsement, as someone might say, of a school walkout. If the students feel like basically they have predators amongst them and the school's not doing anything about it, well, by the way, it's not only on the students to walk out. Where are the parents raising hell up there? I mean, it sounds to me like what Sam just said. He's got a granddaughter. She's talking to him about some of the allegations and what's going on up there. If you're a parent, and first off, you don't know about this, now you do because of the show, so ask your kid about it. And then secondarily, if you know about it, boy, I know what I'd be doing. And it'd be all legal, but I'm going down there and I'm raising a major stink as to what's going on in the school district. If that's actually how the students are feeling and if that walkout is planned for today. It's not on, as much as I'm okay with the walkout, it is not on a bunch of 14 to 17-year-olds to protect themselves. That's what adults are supposed to be there for, especially parents. So the walkout's nice, but you know what? The adults have to get involved as well here. 913-408-7957. So yesterday, I paid off that ticket I got outside the house a couple of months back. That was a brutal 3-week stretch. When I got my first ticket here in the Kansas City area on the Kansas side of state line, coming to work at 5 in the morning, I was going 59 and a 45 on a major thoroughfare in Johnson County. I got nabbed on that. Then I got pneumonia. And there was a third thing that happened to me in that 3-week stretch as well. I'm forgetting. I try to forget that entire 3-week stretch of my life. But it was a bad 3-week stretch. So yesterday I had my big appearance there, John, on Zoom. They do this stuff on Zoom now. You don't have to go to the courthouse anymore.
Did you put on an orange shirt just for fun?
No is the answer to that question. I was, dressed with a button up and looked halfway decent, I guess. But it is funny how little people care because you're seeing other people on the Zoom call, right? And you can hear what the charges are against them, like what they did and why they're there. And I'll tell you what. This was not Murderer's Row of Mensa members. I'll just say that. I was like, hey, Enrique, can you speak up a little bit, man? I mean, the prosecutors try to talk to you. He's trying to cut you a deal. He's trying to help you out, and you're mumbling on the Zoom call because I'm waiting in line behind all these people on Zoom.
Mm-hmm, right.
So I'm seeing how all these interactions are going. And then, you see the girl who was obviously the class president back in high school who's, trying to chum the guy up in the whole thing, and he's having none of it. So you see all these different characters and personalities, and it was like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode as I'm watching this. I'm like, I got Enrique, I got Sally, I got Susie, I got Bob, who, works for, the state, but has a CDL, so he can't get this thing pled down. It's like, it's one big mess, but I'm learning a lot about how all this goes. So, I end up getting a amendment, I guess you would call it, to my charges and paid a little bit more money and, went on with my day. But I was on that Zoom for about an hour yesterday in the waiting room and then just watching the 10 people in front of me while the guy who's in charge of all this, the prosecutor, very good guy. I mean, he was super pleasant, but he's like, sorry, my computer's not working. I'm working from home, everybody. It's a little slow here. I'm like, dude, no one wants to hear this. Just stop.
Nobody cares.
I mean, this is they're just burning through everybody, racking up a couple $100 every time. And I understand. Listen, I back the blue. I've got the cops back, okay? But there was a part of me, too, as I'm sitting here, everyone's basically amending the charges, paying a couple $100, moving on with their day. I couldn't help but think this is just a scheme to make more money for the government. I'm sorry. That's a lot of what this felt like to me, okay? And it doesn't mean that I'm not admitting I did not make a mistake. I did. I'm not looking for special treatment at all. I'm not looking for preferential treatment at all. I'm just saying I felt bad for everybody on that call because we're all there for the same reason. And some people are like, hey, I get paid tomorrow. Can I pay tomorrow afternoon? And it's like, yeah, sure. You got till 4 p.m. Here's your case number, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, these governments got to make a buck. And it felt a lot more like a way to load up their coffers than it actually was about public safety.
Well, they might as well be smart about it. I know some people don't like it, but I think at auto parts store, and in your case here, we just need self-checkout.
Yeah,
Right?
That's good. Yeah.
I'm guilty. Beep.
Well,
tap your card.
I could have done self-checkout if I wanted to just pay the ticket, but I didn't want, the insurance involved in all that. So
See
that's
what you're
why.
saying, but still, nonetheless, you get options for tips, right?
True.
So you get option to plead down not guilty. I'll take the fifth.
Do you want to amend it to illegal parking or this charge or that charge?
Hey,
and
for $10 more, we'll wax the car.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Get the free car wash after you fill up the tank, right? Oh, that's so good, John. But I was once again, everybody involved was pleasant. But I couldn't help but be frustrated with the entire situation because a lot of these people are like not able to pay it right now. And I understand everyone's in a different phase in life. I am not judging them at all. I'm not. But I'm like, really, guys? And some of these things, it was like my deal. Okay, I was going a little too fast. That's fine. But man, you got people who are waiting for a paycheck to now pay the government more money, and it just felt wrong to me.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what do you do if it's a virtual meeting? All right, you go to your room and don't come out until you have that money.
Well, I just would like a little more, shall we say, better judgment on the local level, right, with the people you're dealing with, maybe. I'm just going to leave it at that. On the text line, Pete, happy Friday. Sorry about the ticket thing. Next time you're on a Zoom call, maybe put on a Jungle Law T-shirt. You might have gotten off. No, they would have doubled my fine. That's what they would have done. At least that's what I would do to anybody who had on, or if you put on that dopey, I could have dressed like Tarzan. I guess I could have done that, to the texter's point, John.
I guess credit for them making the virtual experience like being there. Right?
Yeah.
You would have just been sitting there listening to the same old.
Well, that's a good point as well. I don't mind the Zoom thing because I could at least work on my emails here, right, at work while I was sitting there waiting to get my
it is
my
cleaning
ticket.
the rifle,
Yeah,
officer.
yeah. Nothing to see here. But, that was a first for me. That was my first ticket in 8 years, so not looking to get another one anytime soon. I'll say that much. And then, of course, the dreaded service fee on the back end, $10 service fee.
Right.
Who's getting serviced here
Everybody
exactly?
got their hand in it.
It's not me. I'm not getting serviced. I know that much. The $10 service fee. Come on. And then the court cost as well. I wasn't even in court. I was on a Zoom call. What's there a court cost for? What's that money going to?
It's just that we're processing.
I know. Well, oh man.
The beauty is 5 years from now when you get pulled over and there's no record that you paid.
Yeah.
And you'll go to jail immediately.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true, John. That's so true. I got
a Zoom call.
I got a receipt, man. I should probably print it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to make sure I do that today. You're right about that before I get out of here. Coming up, the 6 at 6 top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour on a Friday morning. We'll get to you on 95.7 FM, KCMO.
From Smithville to Shawnee Mission, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
6:50, happy Friday. It's weird to be sitting here and not saying a red Friday with the NFL playoff weekend set to get underway tomorrow. We'll have Damon Amendolara on the show at 8:20 this morning. He used to host a sports talk show here in Kansas City many moons ago. We worked together at what used to be CBS Sports Radio. Great all-around guy, still loves Kansas City. He is now on Sirius XM with Mad Dog Sports Radio doing their morning show there. So he will join us in the 8 o'clock hour. We'll whip around the NFL playoffs coming up this weekend. But in the meantime, let's roll it.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
We are monitoring anti-government protests that are spreading in Iran as authorities are now cutting off communications. Protests that began over crippling economic conditions have swept across Iran, becoming the most serious anti-regime demonstration in years. Yesterday saw the biggest unrest to date, prompting authorities to cut internet access and telephone lines in Tehran and other cities. At least 45 protesters, including 8 children, have been killed since the unrest broke out almost 2 weeks ago. The president of the United States has threatened to attack Iran if security forces kill protesters. But on Friday, the supreme leader said the U.S. president should focus on the problems of his own country. So this is the largest demonstrations that have happened in Iran going back to 2022, when a 22-year-old was put to death while in custody of the religious police 4 years ago now. So that is a dicey situation playing out in Iran and something the world, I know, should be watching very closely. Next up.
Number 2.
Well, the U.S. trade deficit fell to its lowest level since 2009. The monthly trade deficit continued to shrink in October after President Trump imposed sweeping tariffs on imports, according to the latest data. That trade deficit shrank to $29.4 billion, down from $48.1 billion the prior month, as the administration's tariffs reshaped global trade. The figure was the lowest monthly trade deficit recorded since June of 2009. U.S. imports have fallen while exports have remained strong, decreasing the trade deficit and seemingly accomplishing a major goal of the president. Now, I've been one who has been kind of on the fence on the tariffs because the trade deficit itself, to me, is not like this key economic indicator that determines whether or not the country is doing really well and our economy is doing well. It just means the difference between the goods that we are exporting and the goods we are importing is closer than it's been in a very long time, because typically we will consume more from other countries than we ship to those other countries. That's typically how it has worked. But obviously, as the president continues to fight for what he believes is a fairer trade system, you know, he's going to be very happy about this. But I feel like this is kind of like the national debt. It doesn't really mean anything to people. Like, it sounds good to have a lower trade deficit. It sounds bad to be $38 trillion in debt, but no one feels it. So it's kind of just monopoly money and big numbers that don't mean a lot. But it does mean that the global trade is being changed by the United States and by the tariffs of this administration. And whether or not that works out for our economy, I think still remains to be seen.
Number 3.
Rolling through our 6 at 6 here on KCMO, let's go to Fox 4. The Shawnee Police Department is searching for a suspect who rammed 2 police vehicles and another car on Thursday afternoon. According to police, officers were called to Neiman Square Apartments on a reported domestic violence incident. When those officers tried to pull over a suspect's vehicle, he rammed into 2 patrol cars before hitting a civilian's car as well. After hitting 3 vehicles, the suspect got out of his vehicle and ran from the scene. No officers or civilians were injured in the incident. If you have any information related to the incident, you are asked right now to call 911.
Number 4.
All right, we'll go back to Oak Park, where an assistant principal has resigned amid allegations of inappropriate behavior. These allegations were made by students on social media against him. The district said one of the assistant principals at Oak Park High School resigned after returning from winter break. The district said it learned of the allegations involving the man and someone who previously graduated from Oak Park. A spokesperson for the Clay County Sheriff's Office said it also opened an investigation into the former assistant principal at Oak Park High School on Thursday.
Number 5.
All right, the Royals do not have a television home in 2026. All 9 Major League Baseball teams televised by FanDuel Sports have terminated their contracts with the broadcaster. The Braves, the Reds, the Tigers, the Angels, the Marlins, the Brewers, Cardinals, Rays, and yes, the Royals. The deals can be renegotiated. So maybe they'll be back on the FanDuel Sports Network, which is part of Main Street Sports Group, next season. But as of right now, they do not have anything lined up for 2026.
I was just reading that another team had MLB take over their games, which I don't know what network that'll play on or if it'll just be the same or how MLB does this, but it seems very confusing for viewers.
You know, the entire television product for Major League Baseball has gotten so screwed up in recent years with these regional networks. And it's part of the reason baseball has the problems that it has, because you have these local regional networks where if you are the New York Yankees or the Boston Red Sox, you will make a lot more money because of market size than you will if you're in Kansas City. It's just math, right? More eyeballs, more money. It's like radio. You can sell a 30-second commercial in New York for a lot more than you can in Kansas City because just based on numbers, more people are going to hear it. Same thing with television. So that's one of the reasons that baseball's economics are so jacked up and why it's so difficult for smaller market teams to compete. And this thing right now, to your point, Mark, I mean, it's kind of confusing because if you're a fan and you love watching games and you love watching Rex Hudler go, oh,
Bobby.
oh, well, you don't know where you're going to be able to watch that this season.
They should do like what MLS is doing this year, which is it's on Apple TV. You don't have to pay an extra fee. If you have Apple TV, you can watch all the MLS soccer games. They should do that for baseball with Apple or Amazon or whoever.
Well, yeah, I don't know when their contract is up next, but it would make a lot of sense. If people could consume baseball the way we consume the NFL, they would grow that sport tremendously. It'd be huge.
Number 6.
And lastly, in the 6 at 6, the Miami Hurricanes are going to the national championship after they beat the Ole Miss Rebels last night in the Fiesta Bowl 31-27. The SEC will not be in the national championship for a 3rd straight season. And then tonight, you've got the other semifinal game on ESPN, number 1 Indiana against the number 5 Mark Van Sickle Oregon Ducks, who come into the game 13-1. Indiana is undefeated at 14-0.
The Ducks lost to Indiana 30-20 earlier in the season. So it's a revenge game for Oregon.
He's buying into the revenge aspect for the Oregon Ducks. All right, we'll see about that, Mark. Should be a good game tonight.
Plus 150, Oregon Ducks, FanDuel.
Money line. All right. He's in on a straight-up win for Oregon.
Yeah.
As a 3.5-point underdog on FanDuel. Let's see what happens. Coming up on KCMO, if there is anything you hear from this show this morning as it relates to ICE and the policies of sanctuary cities, this was the most overlooked clip of the week, and I will share it with you next. If you listen to anything on this show this morning, please have it be this clip. Please have it be Tom Homan talking to CBS News a couple of nights ago. And I stumbled upon it yesterday. Actually, somebody in law enforcement here in town tipped me off to it and said, hey, did you hear what Tom Homan said the other night on CBS News? And I said, well, yeah, I watched some of that interview. And he said, did you see what he said about how sanctuary cities are being incredibly unhelpful when it comes to ICE doing its job? And that may be, in part, what leads to some of the chaos on the streets of Minneapolis and elsewhere. And I said, either I didn't hear that part or I missed that part. But I went back last night because it was a 25-minute long interview that Tom Homan did with CBS Evening News. Tony DeCopel is the new guy there, and he's been good. I mean, it's been a week on the job, but he's been solid. And Tom Homan is the White House border czar. I mean, you've seen him on TV all over the place the last 12 months. Tom Homan's very good at his job. He's a little difficult to listen to. I mean, once again, I've had Tom Homan on the show. I think he's great. But he kind of sounds drunk sometimes. He just I don't know, it's a slur or something. So you've got to listen closely when he's speaking.
It's kind of like a digital skip, except there's not that little click sound to it, right? He does an actual skip.
He does. Yeah, that's what it is. So I don't like to play clips of Tom Homan that are all that long because even I have to go back and hear him again. So I've got this thing, though. You got to hear it, though, John.
Even Ben Shapiro's going, what?
So I'll stop this thing as it goes along. But here's the premise of it. Tom Homan is saying, I'll interpret Tom Homan before I play Tom Homan. How's that sound? Tom Homan is saying here that if these cities allowed ICE to go into the jails in these communities, they would not have to wander the streets looking for bad guys who have broken the law, who also are here illegally. This could be done in a much safer, more effective manner that works for everybody. Tom Homan is saying to these sanctuary cities like Minneapolis, let us into your jails. And this is a much better situation for everybody. And ask yourself why these cities would not want to allow ICE into their jails.
Mayor says it's causing chaos in the streets. He says, quote, get the F out of Minneapolis. Assuming that you're not going to do that.
First of all, he's causing chaos on the street. You want less ICE agents in the street? Then let us in the jail. They're a sanctuary city. Let us arrest that public safety threat that you decided to lock in a jail cell. You made that decision. Let ICE officers talk to that person.
Okay. It's a great point, and I'll continue with Tom Homan. He's saying there, your city has already arrested person A, B, or C. If there's a relationship to be had with ICE, if that person is here illegally, why would you not want us in the jails? You've arrested them. You think they're a bad person. And we can take this person off your hands and prevent them from committing more crimes in your city. Why would you not want us in the jails? It's the easiest way to do this is what Tom Homan is trying to get to here.
Because when you get fingerprinted, or you get arrested tonight, you, me, or anybody else, you get fingerprinted, your prints are run against NCIC. They're also run against DHS databases. So we know this person is sitting in that jail right now that we have a warrant for, or is a prior deport. Give us access to that person. When you're done with them, let us have them. That way, safer for the public, because you're not releasing public safety threats back into the public. It's safer for the officer, and it's safer for the alien.
It's safer for everybody if ICE is allowed into the jails in these major American cities. It is safer for the public, because now you don't have ICE having to go door to door to find people who have committed crimes who also are here illegally. You don't have any potential confrontations with the public. It is safer for the officers, and it's safer for the alien. The illegal alien is what he's getting at here. It's safer for everybody because there's no confrontation. The person's already arrested. Like, I don't care if you're the biggest proponent of open borders. You've got to admit, this makes sense. If you love the fact that Minneapolis is a sanctuary city, and I don't know what Kansas City's calling itself today. I mean, I know it was a sanctuary city. I don't know if it is right now, but, they've waffled back and forth on that. But if you have someone who's already arrested, which means the city thinks this person's a bad guy, and then also they should be deported because they're not here legally, and they've committed a crime in our country after the fact, why would you not want to just say, hey, ICE, please come in, take care of that. Take them off our hands. We don't want to have to release them back to the public.
Let us in the jail. So, I've said it 1,000 times ever since this, I've been doing this job. Let us in the jail. There's no downside to that. But the sanctuary city politicians say, well, we're a welcoming community. We're a sanctuary city because we want victims and witnesses of a crime that are in the United States illegally feel safe to come to us with fear we're not working with ICE. That's crap. Victims and witnesses of crime don't want the bad guy released back in the neighborhood either. And we're not looking to talk to the victim and witness. We want to talk to the guy that they locked in the jail cell. That's what we want. The more of that we can do, the less interior enforcement community operations we have to.
All right, that's Tom Homan. I should start calling him. Since Tom Homan slurs his words, I'll just start calling him Toman. How's that sound? Tom Homan, the border czar, making that comment to CBS Evening News is the most overlooked quote of the week on this discussion in this country in the wake of what happened with Renee Good the other day in Minneapolis. We don't have to have ICE marching up and down the streets of major American cities. They can do this stuff in relative peace and quiet in jail cells in major American cities. When these cities arrest guys who are here illegally, you can then have ICE take over from the local authorities, and they can basically get these people off the streets permanently, because they're not supposed to be here anyway. And we should all agree that even if you're someone who's like kind of okay with having a quasi-open border, you don't want people who are here illegally and are committing crimes, right? I mean, no one in their right mind would want that. So if ICE can do that job more efficiently, more effectively, without being basically seen by the public, who's against that? And I didn't even know that was happening in these cities until someone in law enforcement here in Kansas City flagged me on the quote by Homan, and they said, go look at what Tom Homan said the other day to CBS Evening News. No one's talking about it, and it's the biggest problem in the wake of what happened in Minneapolis with Renee Good. You would not have these ICE agents going up and down streets in these cities having protesters in every corner if they would get into the jails. So these politicians in these cities are helping cause the chaos and helping drive a wedge between citizens and ICE and putting everybody at risk, putting the agents at risk, putting civilians at risk, and then also having policies that oftentimes will send these people back into their communities, which is not good for anybody. 913-408-7957. Kevin's in Overland Park. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Pete. Hey, you make a great point. I'm really appreciative of everything Tom Homan's been doing, and the rest of his people under him and stuff. But yeah, it never, logic never works with liberals, as you know, and it goes back to they may have someone illegal in jail for something, some type of charge, but they're going to let them right back out. So that's why they won't hand them over, because they're just going to let them right back out for on whatever reason, and it always comes back to money. Their palms are getting greased on this for some reason, and it's just so discourse in this country.
I don't know the reason. Thanks, Kevin. Have a great weekend, man. I don't know the reason, but your suggestion is one that I'm not going to sit here and say is completely inaccurate, because frankly, nothing else makes sense. Nothing else makes sense for why you would not want to create an environment that even if you're open to looser immigration policies, people that come here legally and break the law should not be in the country. And ICE can help you with that. And they can do it behind closed doors in these jails in all of these major American cities, whether it's Minneapolis or Kansas City. 7:14 on a Friday morning. I almost said Red Friday. So used to talking to Kendall Gammon here, getting ready for a playoff game. But such is life right now. I'm ready for that top 10 draft pick. I know Mark is too. He's fired up. Mark will have a parlay special for us and buy, sell, hold coming up at 8:45 on KCMO. We got that first text to win keyword to fly out the Stagecoach in California and see Riley Green and meet him as well coming up later this year. That text to win keyword is 20 minutes away on KCMO Talk Radio. Okay, next, everyone thinks that the Royals are going to go somewhere else. The most powerful person in baseball said something yesterday that if you really had any thought that the Royals were going to leave Kansas City, that was put to rest. We have the audio next on KCMO.
On Friday's Guy Benson Show, former Attorney General Bill Barr will be here on Venezuela, Minnesota, and beyond. Coming up at 2 o'clock on 95.7 KCMO.
Give it up. The Royals are not running to Nashville. I've said it a million times on this show, but I get it when I post something on social media. There are many people who see it who are not tuned in here on a daily basis on 95.7 FM. I would love for them to be here every morning. They can stream us on the KCMO Talk Radio app. You can pull us up on your Alexa or your Google Home every single morning. You can find the podcast after the show and subscribe there on Apple or Spotify.
And they have this thing called a radio.
Yes, they do have one of those
crazy
as well.
nowadays.
It is kind of wild, but it does still work, especially when you're in the car. The Royals are not going to Nashville. I know that because I have talked to multiple people who do business in Nashville with the government who have said, you know what? We have extended ourselves enough with this new Tennessee Titans stadium. They have no political capital to try to get a Major League Baseball franchise to that city with major incentives right now. They don't have the appetite for it. So stop being afraid of the Royals if they don't get everything they want from Kansas or Missouri running to Nashville. It's not going to happen. And then this was said yesterday by the commissioner of Major League Baseball. His name is Rob Manfred. And he came out and he said yesterday on WFAN radio, it's a sports radio station in New York City. I used to work there, so I just stumbled upon this clip on social media. He said that they want to expand and they want to realign Major League Baseball to be set up more like other sports where it's east to west and like no American League, National League setup. Since, you know, they all have the DH now anyway, there's really no difference between the leagues. Why do this AL-NL thing? But then when he mentioned expansion to get them to 32 teams, so you could have basically divisions of, you could have 8 different divisions of 4 teams each, which would just make sense mathematically. That is even less reason to believe the Royals can go anywhere. If you're expanding by a couple of teams, then the Royals lose even more leverage. Rob Manfred yesterday, the commissioner of Major League Baseball yesterday, hurt the Royals' chances even further when it comes to leverage of potentially leaving Kansas City.
First of all, I would like to expand. I think 32 would be good for us. And, you know, fundamentally, there's a lot of cities like to have Major League Baseball. When people want your product, you ought to try to, find a way to sell it to them. It's kind of basic, number one. Number two, it does a ton of for us from a format perspective. You would realign. You would do it along geographic lines, which could alleviate a ton of the travel burden that's on players. Remember, we ask our players 162 times in 186 days. So most of the play between 162 and 186 travel, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, so you can eliminate a lot of that travel, make it less burdensome, which would be a great thing in terms of player health and safety. And if you played geographically, we get in a postseason, we have those 4 window days that I love, right? You get 4 baseball games in a day, it's awesome. But when you think about the fans in the individual markets, you always end up with, because of the way we're set up, you get Boston versus Anaheim in one of the early rounds. So you're either going to be too late for the fans in Boston or too early. So if you realign geographically, you would look more like other sports where you play up east into the World Series and west into the World Series. And that 10 o'clock game on the West Coast that sometimes is a problem for us becomes a primetime game on the West Coast for the two teams that are playing. So there's a lot of advantages to it. I think if you did it, you'd probably be 8-4s, right? Okay. And I think you would try to keep the 2 team cities separate.
That was Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred yesterday, the audio courtesy of WFAN radio in New York City. The fact that he mentioned expansion means that there are potentially 2 cities who will get Major League Baseball who no longer have to worry about stealing the Royals. Not that I ever thought that was likely anyway, but that comment from Rob Manfred yesterday actually hurts the Royals in trying to maybe use another city as leverage against either Kansas or Missouri. Because now you've got two cities that may end up with Major League Baseball teams. I mean, he sounded pretty solid to me on wanting to expand, and he explained it very well. He put it out there, and he said, listen, it's beneficial to us for a multitude of reasons. If we want to restructure the sport and basically have, let's say, the Cubs and the White Sox, no longer AL-NL. Now, it sounds like they would still split them up. They wouldn't put the two Chicago teams in the same division. But you might have now the Cubs, the Cardinals, the Royals, and the Brewers in the same division, which I would love that. That would be fun.
Yeah, you got a great weekend road trip. Your airfare is not much, not really that hard to drive if you really want to have a great time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, could you imagine the Royals and Cardinals now playing 18 times a year instead of like the 6 times they play right now? It'd be fantastic for the fans as well. It just would be great. It'd build up that rivalry even more. So his mindset is in the right place, but it's bad for the Royals. And, some people got on me. Well, they didn't get on me. They just said I was being a little harsh yesterday when I said that, everyone reported that this Clay County Commissioner, Jason Withington, said he was done negotiating with the Royals. And he's entitled to that opinion. He is. But it was reported on local news as if he's Governor Kehoe. And I said on social media, one commissioner with not a lot of juice said he was done, whatever that means. Jason's a nice guy, but he's not pulling the strings on this deal. He's not a power player in this deal. He can say he's done, but it doesn't really mean anything. The Royals are not done in North Kansas City. They still have options on both sides of state line if they want. Coming up, Mayor Lucas made a poor financial decision and announcement yesterday. I wish I knew it before I had him on the show. I'll tell you what it is next.
from Lenexa to Lee Summit. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
This is like you got $100,000 in credit card debt, and you go out there and you say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm buying myself a new bike. Okay? That's what I'm doing. This is the dumbest thing I've seen in a while from Kansas City government. Now, of course, they took some time off at the end of the year, but I'm like, we were just a couple of months ago talking about how Kansas City is going to have, projected to have, a $100 million general fund shortfall. And yesterday it was announced, and I wish I had this before I talked to the mayor at 7:30 on Thursday, which we do each and every week, that they are going to spend $450,000 to help study downtown entertainment options and the future of the Truman Sports Complex. Can't they just listen to this radio show for free and we will solve all their problems? And if they want to kick us that $450,000, we'll take it. We'll split it 3 ways.
Yeah, I've got an idea to get that contract. We can print up maybe 100 suggestion boxes for a couple $100 at Instaprint or something. Drop those off at Johnny's and some of the sports bars and just pocket the rest, right?
I'm fine with that, John, if you are. We can run it like a Somalian daycare. That's what we can do. All right? I mean, this is crazy. The city just willy-nilly spending $500,000 to discuss the future of at least the Truman Sports Complex, which, by the way, they don't own, they don't run, and they don't have any authority over. Remember, it's a Jackson County facility that is operated by a sports commission. Kansas City, Missouri, basically has nothing to do with the complex, at least when it comes to ownership and running it or having any authority over it. So why the heck would you sit there if you're Kansas City, Missouri, and you're bleeding money and say, sure, $500,000 to study downtown entertainment and the future of the Truman Sports Complex? I mean, the only thing you're doing is right now spending about $10 million a year to cover the shortfall of the Power and Light District. You know, I mean, if you're talking about where to put the Royals, the reason they wanted the Royals in the Crossroads is because they thought it could tie in the Power and Light and help basically close the gap when it comes to Power and Light losing $10 million a year, which actually was a good idea. But because it was mishandled so poorly by the team, the voters said no thanks. But this is as clueless as I've seen Kansas City. Listen, it's $500,000. It's not make or break. But when you're talking about shortfalls to the tune of $100 million, every dollar counts. It's cliche, but every dollar has to count. And this is it's just reckless spending is all it is.
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
I think they don't. They don't. Unbelievable. And this is part of what the mayor said to Channel 41. Said, quote, "We never know what the future holds exactly, but we will always make sure in Kansas City that we are prepared." Oh, my gosh. Prepared for what? You guys have been more unprepared than you've been prepared as far as I can tell the last couple of years. Quote, "This is really, in many ways, a continuation of some of the work we're doing, just making sure that we continue to have good, adequate funds for it." Adequate funds? You're funding a study to fund an entertainment district that the taxpayer funds because it's losing money after almost 20 years of existence in Power and Light's case? Who's getting paid by the $450,000 to study the Truman Sports Complex? Who? Some out-of-town, so-called expert on economic development? These guys are running quite a racket. The $450,000 contract allows for economic advisory services, urban planning, legal and professional engineering services related to downtown entertainment and recreation projects and efforts in collaboration with Jackson County at the Truman Sports Complex. Sounds like a great way for some attorneys and some urban planners to make a few extra bucks. John, Mark, and I would do a better job at less than half the cost. I promise you that. Because we would take your ideas, or we could just do, you know what we could do? We could take callers' ideas, send them the podcast, and it costs them nothing.
Bam.
Nothing at all. Lucas pointed out the contract could help determine the future of the Truman Sports Complex if the Chiefs successfully complete their move to Wyandotte County, and if the Kansas City Royals decide to build a new stadium elsewhere in the Kansas City area. Guys, this is part of your job. You don't need to hire someone for $500,000 when you don't have the money. Have the city council members go out there, talk to their friends, talk to business experts, talk to economic developers, do your job and get their ideas. You don't have to hire someone for that. Man, it is so foolish.
Well, even if you did it have to be this year?
Well, that's true as well.
I'm wondering. You know?
Let's see if you pass the e-tax extension first, coming up in April, which you will because it always passes. But, man, it's just a bad look all around. It's terrible. 913-408-7957. Pete, I cannot believe that Kansas City will spend $500,000 to study something they don't control. Yeah, I know. It really is government at its finest, or really its worst, is what it is. Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay, now this came out of Channel 9 this morning. Matt Fleener, KMBC. He reports here. He does a great job. I mean, we have a few really good reporters in this town, and Matt Fleener is top of that list. Fleener, Ketz, some others, but he's great. Matt Fleener reporting here, you may have to wait more than 3 years to learn the inner workings of a multi-billion-dollar stadium deal between local and state leaders and the Chiefs. An attorney for the Unified Government of Wyandotte County and KCK has denied a request for KMBC for any emails between city and county leaders and Chiefs employees discussing the stadium deal. The county's denial hinges on a 2024 state law to lure the Chiefs and the Royals to Kansas using star bonds that said, quote, associated documentation about any stadium deal could be confidential until July 1 of 2029. Now, this is part of basically an extension of the story we told you about yesterday in the Kansas City Star that said the state of Kansas has a special law that says stadium star bond talks can be kept secret. So the Star reported this yesterday, and then you had Matt Fleener, Channel 9, go out there and basically say to KCK, hey, we've got an open records request, and, we want to see what the communications were between the government and the Chiefs. And they said no, and they pointed back to the state law we told you about yesterday that basically allows the government to hide and keep secret any details about conversations between the state, local governments, and the teams under wraps until July of 2029. Wendy Green, Unified Government Attorney, told Channel 9, quote, any emails pertaining to a potential stadium is considered associated documentation at this time. After the denial, Channel 9 emailed the entire county commission and the mayor to ask about withholding emails for the stadium deal, but they have not heard back. A Unified Government spokesperson reiterated yesterday the county is complying with the laws enacted by the Kansas State Legislature. This is filthy. Filthy. It's not a Democrat thing. It is not a Republican thing. It is a clear lack of government transparency by both sides of the political aisle. It's not about changing the outcome. What's done is done. But you know what? Next time some of these people running for local office at the county level, the city level, or the state level, and there's a lot of that coming in Kansas this year, tells you they're all about the people, tells you they're all about transparency, especially the state folks who voted for this law in 2024 and voted specifically to make sure the public would not be able to learn a lot for 3 years at least on the details and the conversations that were had with the Chiefs and the Royals. Spare me your transparency card. Spare me the high and mighty fighting for the little guy. Spare me. Not when you have a lot of the most prominent people in the state of Kansas on the left and the right who were out there, voted for this, knowing full well the public was not going to be able to get a lot of information. This is not about stadiums. This is not about sports. This is not about rooting for the Chiefs or hoping your favorite concert comes to the new stadium in Wyandotte County. This is now about a government and a group of establishment elites on both sides who have basically said, we are blocking the public. They have blocked you from votes, and now they are blocking you from information. And that I find just absolutely disgusting. Everything about it. Let's go to John. He's on KCMO. What's up, John? Good morning.
Good morning. Remember the last time a politician said you got to pass it to find out what's in it? Oh, that was Nancy Pelosi, wasn't it? And this wonderful Affordable Care Act bill.
You know, you know what? Here's the thing. That's better than what Kansas is doing. Kansas passed it, and we still can't really find out what's in it.
Yes, that's true. That makes it a little more dirtier.
Pelosi's doing a better job than the Kansas politicians. I can't believe I'm saying something like that, but it's true.
Wow. I didn't know. Boy, this is really getting bad.
Oh, man. I mean, you come in here. I love it, John. You come in here and you try to make the case that Kansas is Pelosi, and I'm sitting here saying Pelosi's better than Kansas right now.
Every once in a while, I try to point out something that looks bad and make it look bad, and then it's worse than it was, and then I'm like, oh, it shocked me even.
Yeah.
Like, wow, the way you spun it, ta-doon on you.
I don't need to rim shot myself, buddy. I really don't. I'll let John or Mark do that when they find it appropriate. But, yeah, I mean, this is not even Pelosi and Obama saying you got to pass it to find out what's in it. This is, we're going to pass it, and we don't even know what's in it. And if you want to find out how we got here and we got to the point of passing this, well, you know what? Reach out to us in July of 29. July of 29. Oh, my gosh. You know, by then, half the stadium's already built, if not more. And, you got tax issues in cities, counties, and statewide. And, then. So I'm going to mark my calendar. Should I put that in my Google Calendar right now? July 1st of 29 to reach out to someone in the Kansas legislature and reach out to the local officials.
Set that alarm.
I might just do it. And by the way, half these guys and gals aren't even going to be in elected office, right? I mean, that seems awfully convenient that some of them will, not all of them, but some of them who were involved in this won't even be in office anymore. So that works out awfully well. Oh my gosh, it is so gross. It really makes me sick, the way that this thing has been handled. 913-408-7957. Pete, I'm so upset about this and disagree with it so much, I literally have to almost meditate so that I don't think about it. Well, you know what? You can meditate. You can do whatever you do. I mean, you want to say a prayer for our leaders and hope that they come to their senses here in the next few weeks? I don't know. I really don't know what else to say. But I understand. I really do understand. And now you're going to have multiple people running for statewide office and, running for re-election here this year in Kansas. And they're going to be all about the little guy, all about helping the little guy, all about transparency in government. And it's going to be a lot of the same people that voted for a bill that prevented the public from learning about their conversations with either team for 3 years before it could go public, as everybody hides. Just remember that, all right? Do with it what you want. I don't do endorsements. I don't do anything like that. I never have. But do with that information what you want as 2026 unfolds. 913-408-7957. How you join us on a Friday morning on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Streaming, as always, on the KCMO Talk Radio app. My buddy Nick Haines, Kansas City PBS, is going to be in studio this morning at 9 o'clock for our Feature Friday segment. We'll preview everything happening in Kansas City in 2026 with him. on 95.7 FM. I got to get to my own story and what happened yesterday as I was going through the legal process, shall we say. My first experience with that, all coming up. Busy Friday here on KCMO Talk Radio.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO.
This is funny on the text line. Pete, we were just talking about the fact that any of the details about this Chiefs deal in Wyandotte County can be held private until July of 2029 based on state law that the legislature passed in 2024. They can hide and deny sunshine requests because of this state law. On the text line, Pete, all public deals should be made public. How can politicians legally hide our money from us? They are only a small step better than the Somalian fraudsters. Oh! Hey, that's a great... I mean, you know what? That might work on the campaign trail for some people. Oh, my gosh. That's too much on the text line. We do have some breaking news here. If you're a sports fan, Amazon has confirmed to the Sports Business Journal that Al Michaels is coming back in 2026 to call Thursday night football games when he will be 82 years old. I have not watched a lot of Thursday night football this year because I just think the pairing of Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit is weird to me. And the games have not been that good on Thursday night, right? And then when we get a Chiefs game on Thursday night, we get it on local TV anyway. But I love Al Michaels. I really do. Do you believe in miracles? I love Al Michaels. But it feels like he's lost a step. It's like an athlete. He's lost a step.
And it's like Kirk, he was with Lee Corso for all those years, right?
Yeah.
And now it's getting into not quite that territory, but it's getting close.
No. He's not in Lee Corso's territory. Lee Corso didn't know where he was half the time.
Well, I don't know. It's not quite that.
No, it's not quite that.
There was times when he was getting lost on the broadcast.
Yeah. Well, when he calls the Cincinnati Bengals the LSU Tigers, then I'll start to be concerned for Al Michaels.
Puts the hat on.
Yeah, exactly. But, maybe that's why they've got Kirk in the booth, because he's good at babysitting old guys on TV.
That's what I'm thinking.
It's a specialty. I just, it's one of the reasons I enjoyed doing play-by-play early in my career, but once these guys get these top jobs, they never leave. They do it till they're 82. There's no upward mobility in play-by-play. I mean, Jim Nantz is going to do the Masters till he's dead. He may not do football forever, but he will do golf forever. He's made that clear. Al Michaels is 82. That seat's not going to open up until Al Michaels decides he's done, or he does call the Bengals the LSU Tigers. One or the other, whichever one comes first. So it's a very difficult business, no matter how good you are, because the upward mobility is so tough. So yesterday, I'm paying off, I'm in court on Zoom, paying off my ticket I got a couple of months ago when I was going 59 and a 45, getting here to work in the morning. And it was different because, you're on a Zoom call with 10 other people, so you can hear all the other conversations that people in front of you are having with the prosecutor. And my first takeaway, not that we needed confirmation, John, about, how fortunate we are to do this for a living, and we are. But, man, these prosecutors who just spend all day in municipal court dealing with people like me who have a, speeding ticket 10, 15 miles over the limit, whatever it might be, they seemed absolutely miserable. I mean, it is just hours upon hours upon hours of the same thing. All right, let's go to Bob. Bob, you want to amend this one down and pay double, and, we'll send you back to the secretary and you can pay your fee and move on with your day. Bob's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. All right, let's go to Steve. All right, let's go to Susie. All right. I mean, I sat there for an hour, and it felt like 5 hours. I can't imagine doing that every single day.
It's not all TV glamour like SVU and Jungle Law commercials.
No, it is not.
And all of them.
No. And, you got the guy working remotely. He's like, yeah, I got a sick kid. Sorry, my machine's a little slow. And then you get the people on the other end who are like, I can't turn my camera on Zoom. I don't know how to turn this thing on. And he's like, fine, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Bueller? Okay, all right. Everyone good? All right, it's fine if you can't turn your camera on. We'll just keep going here. But there was a lot of that yesterday,
Sir,
too.
I see you behind your sofa. Come around. You are here.
As long as Jeffrey Toobin's not on there waiting to, pay his ticket, we should be okay. But I'm going through this process. I felt like it was a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. I needed Larry David to write the script because that's how comical the whole thing was as I'm sitting there waiting in line. You got the goody two-shoes girl who's like dressed up, who's like, please plead it down. And he's like, you get the same deal as everybody else, lady, okay? Like, there's nothing you can really say to me that's going to make this any better or worse. Nothing you can do. And then you had a young woman I mean, she must have been a high schooler. She's sitting there, and her dad's like whispering in her ear what to say and what to do, but he's not on camera, but everyone can hear him. And I like that. He made her get on the Zoom, and he walked her through the process, and she took her lumps. But it was an hour where I was like, I could do 4 hours on this hour of Zoom I was on yesterday, paying off this ticket. It was wild.
Did the judge hit you up with this one?
I think Pete's behavior has been egregious.
No, I did not get one of those, Mark. I did not get one of those.
Maybe onto something for live TV deal, though.
Yeah.
These reality things are so much cheaper to produce.
You're right about that. But when he wanted to double my fee, I said this.
I'm not worth your Red Lobster money.
I did drop one of those. The latest from Minneapolis next. Well, we had some protests last night here in Kansas City on behalf of Renee Good, the woman who had ties to Kansas City. She was living here until Trump won the 2024 election. Then she moved to Canada with her partner and then ended up in Minneapolis. She was shot and killed by an ICE officer 2 days ago. And, of course, that's led to upheaval in that city, and it's led to protests around the country, including here in Kansas City. So I watched some of the local news coverage last night from the protests that were happening downtown. And they were they were mostly harmless. It was not 2020 or anything like that. People holding signs and doing their thing. But, I've told you, John, before that the people who speak at protests are usually not the ones who should speak on behalf of the group, right?
True.
I watched multiple local television reports, and I saw the same guy 3 times.
Yeah, exactly, right? Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. The same guy was in 3 local TV reports doing his thing. And I'm like, I'm just picturing him practicing in the mirror yesterday afternoon before he goes out to his protest, being like, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to talk to the local media. I'm going to make myself a star tonight. And he practiced his lines and, he did his Al Pacino thing.
In the bathroom stall where you get the reverb like your headphones. Yeah, that's where he's at.
I'm like, this guy was just the first one to jump up and say, I'll talk to you, KSHB. I'll talk to you, KCTV5. He's in 3 packages. Now, he didn't totally embarrass himself, but he was in 3 different packages. Here's what it sounded like on KCTV.
They came here to say no more.
This has got to stop. This isn't what America's about.
They came in memory of Renee Good.
The fact that they're calling her a domestic terrorist is just absolutely ridiculous.
And to stand with all.
We don't want them to feel alone or paralyzed, like they can't do anything.
They came to show unity from Kansas City, where she lived, to Minneapolis, where she died.
There is no need to shoot her. There is absolutely no need.
They expressed anger at ICE, not just for what happened Wednesday in Minneapolis, but for what's been going on in cities across the United States.
I mean, the rain sucks, but people dying and being ripped away from their families sucks more.
We just saw what the product is of allowing them to run rampant, and we don't want that in our city either.
This is just the first event, a quickly organized one. They're also working to get several groups and faith leaders together for a prayer vigil on Saturday at Mill Creek Park on the plaza. They expect it will start at 3:30, possibly at 4. Once we get more information, we'll be sure to let you know.
All right, John, so you got about 30 hours to figure out what you're going to wear tomorrow afternoon.
3:30 or 4. I'm not sure if I'm up yet.
Okay. Tomorrow, we're looking at about 43 degrees, chance of rain, so no fishnet tomorrow, all right? No, can't wear that.
Something shiny Mylar.
Yeah, that sounds good. You'll stand out. Well, that was last night on behalf of Renee Good. And what stood out to me when it came to all the comments from those who were there protesting is that they put absolutely zero blame on Renee Good. Now, I've said since yesterday, you look at what happened there, and it's a tragedy. Renee Good did not necessarily deserve to die because of what she was doing. Now, was she impeding law enforcement who was doing its job? Yes. Was she then resisting arrest? Yes. Did she try to flee law enforcement in a vehicle while pointing that vehicle towards an officer? Yes. Does that mean you deserve to lose your life? I don't believe so. But it's like I've said since yesterday morning. When you make mistake after mistake after mistake, and your situation becomes more dangerous with each decision that you make, you run the risk of something really tragic happening. And that's what happened here. And it's very similar to me. If you want to compare it to, someone on the right side of the aisle, it's very similar to what happened to Ashley Babbitt on January 6th, the one person who was killed that day because of what happened that day. Now, fine, she's not in a vehicle, which you can say is a weapon, but same thing. You make bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, you are putting yourself at a certain level of risk for something tragic to happen. And that's what happened to Renee Good in part. And the fact that even those who are protesting on her behalf, that obviously are motivated by, their hatred of ICE and Trump and everything else, the fact that they can't at least admit that they can't come to that conclusion of she made some mistakes, but what happened there should not have happened. I could take that argument. I could. I was talking to somebody in law enforcement yesterday, or ex-law enforcement, and what this person said to me, and they had a lot of power when they were in law enforcement. They were high up in the ranks. And what this person said to me is he said, listen, I'm not excusing what she did, Renee Good. But he did say he always taught his guys and gals to do everything you can to not shoot at a vehicle because it can cause a whole multitude of issues. Once again, this is not excusing what Renee Good did. I'm just saying you could see the argument on the other side. Just like I would hope common sense people on the left could see the argument for why Ashley Babbitt should not have been shot and killed, even if she made bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. But that's not the world we live in. Instead, people want to turn some of these folks into martyrs, and they're not. They're just not. I mean, Renee Good had a 6-year-old child that she now leaves behind, who's an orphan because the child's father died in 2023. And she's out there, and the New York Post had this exclusive yesterday. Headline, Renee Nicole Good was Minneapolis Ice Watch warrior who was trained to resist feds before the shooting. So she's in Kansas City. She leaves Kansas City after the 2024 election of President Trump. She goes to Canada for a hot minute. She ends up coming back across the border from Canada, ends up in Minneapolis. And the New York Post reported here that she was an anti-ICE warrior and was part of a group of activists who worked to document and resist the federal immigration crackdown in Minnesota. Good, who moved to the city last year, linked up with the anti-ICE activists through her 6-year-old son's woke charter school, which boasts that it puts social justice first and prioritizes involving kids in political and social activism. Honestly, that feels like a school that is geared towards mentally unstable parents who want to worship their political overlords and want to then push their kids down that road as well. Nothing about that sounds healthy. Good and her wife Rebecca were raising the boy together in the mostly working-class, activist-heavy neighborhood of South Minneapolis, which, according to the New York Post, features tree-lined streets and a large number of homes with windows decked out in LGBTQ flags or signs depicting George Floyd. I didn't know that the George Floyd statue business was such a lucrative one. Just as many others did in the enclave, Good sent her son to Southside Family Charter School, a K-5 academy opened up in 1972, which from its inception has been unabashedly dedicated to social justice education. It's through her involvement in the school community that Good became involved in ICE Watch, a loose coalition of activists dedicated to disrupting ICE raids in the sanctuary city. This is what they do. Part of her job, as she saw it, was to disrupt ICE raids. I mean, right away, before you get to what happened the other day, you're signing up for a position that can be very dangerous. You have a 6-year-old child. The lack of responsibility from this mother is something that I would like to think, even if you support her cause, was clear as day. You've got to protect your children, especially when that 6-year-old has already lost his father. But this is what happens when you worship your politics. You make bad decisions on the left or the right. If you put your politics on a pedestal and you believe, 1, your side can do no wrong, 2, you've got your politics above your family, you've got your politics above your faith, and everything feeds out of your politics, you end up doing stuff like this. That's the lesson here that both sides could theoretically take from. Now, I think generally speaking, the left does need it more than the right. And I'm not saying that because of my own bias, but I am saying there are people on most, well, I don't want to say most. There's obviously a percentage of folks who identify as Republicans who are more likely to lean into their faith and have that on the pedestal versus their politics. It is more likely on the left to have the politics on that pedestal rather than one's faith. And that's a mistake. Not that there aren't people on the right who do that, who do put their politics on the pedestal, and everything is downstream of that. That's I don't think healthy either, but I believe you see more of that on the left because they're less likely to have any faith-based element to their lives. So that's how you end up in this situation where you think, you're some kind of vigilante who's going to change the system and interrupt and impede on ICE investigations. And you're asking for trouble. That's what you're doing here. You're asking for trouble. Coming up next, we'll whip around the NFL playoffs this weekend. No Chiefs, but it is Wildcard weekend. We'll do a quick run around the league with Damon Amendolara. Used to host a sports talk show here in Kansas City. We worked together at CBS Sports Radio back in the day. He is now on Sirius XM. We'll do that with him coming up next on KCMO. And then Nick Haines in studio from Kansas City PBS at 9 o'clock.
From Leawood to Liberty, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
First time since 2014, we're sitting here getting ready for the NFL playoffs, and we do not have any Chiefs football to look forward to. I still have the Christmas gift I got from Kate here. It's a Chiefs Yeti. That is very nice. I'm still rocking it this morning, but that's the only red we've got going on right now between the three of us here. That's it. Mark's got his Oregon Duck stuff on. All of a sudden, he's a big Ducks fan because the Ducks are in the college football playoff semifinals coming up tonight against Indiana. He's all over that money line. And John and I are just wearing regular neutral colors today. No red Friday, no juice here, John. It's okay. But you know what? Feel for the sports radio guys. I mean, I've been just checking out Kansas City radio as I always do, and they're 3 months out in full NFL draft mode. What do we do? Who do we take? What do we do? Guys, 90 days of NFL draft talk. Oh, my goodness. Maybe I'd rather be the guy who was handling traffic tickets on the Zoom call yesterday I was on. Whoa.
Now, I like football maybe as much as you like golf, so I find this part interesting. Yeah, and like I say, I'm interested in the draft pick. I'm interested in the guys they signed. So, yeah, the 4 tight end thing does interest me. So the minutiae is fun for me right now.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Well, we've got a few games, 6 games here coming up this weekend. Damon Amendolara is going to join us here momentarily. He used to work on Kansas City Sports Radio. He is now with Sirius XM, and we worked together on CBS Sports Radio as well about 8-10 years ago now. So he was hosting shows there after he was running Kansas City, then went to Boston, then went national, and now he's on Sirius XM. So as soon as we can get him on the horn, we will do that here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
I'm thinking one thing. Maybe Snow Creek and Weston will finally catch a break.
Yeah.
Right? The fans are looking for something to do, and in some Januaries it's 60 degrees, and they can't make enough snow up there to keep their lanes and their tracks open. So it's supposed to be kind of cool, and we're actually supposed to get a winter mix here, so that'll help them out. So could be a better season at Weston this winter.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That would work out pretty well.
Tubing.
Yes, no doubt about it. So in the meantime, you did have this last night as well. You had Scott Van Pelt. We'll play that clip after we're done here with Damon Amendolara. All right, we'll get to him here on KCMO Talk Radio. 6 NFL games coming up this weekend. DA, thanks for being back on KCMO Talk Radio. Let me just start here. The team that you think is under the most pressure here, these NFL playoffs, who would you put that on?
Well, I think undoubtedly looking at the Bills' history, the quarterback, the coach, if they don't make it out of the wild card round, it obviously is a big disappointment. It doesn't mean they can't lose because I think the Jaguars are really good, but it just means if they lose, how they lose is going to be dissected all season long, all off season long. McDermott has had a lot of tough ends to postseason, so this would end at So I think it would be the Buffalo Bills. I think on the NFC side, I think the way the Eagles exit is very interesting because they won the Super Bowl last year, but obviously they've had a lot of turmoil throughout the season, so it casts a big light on Nick Sirianni. And then the Packers have to acquit themselves well because of how bad the end of the season was.
All right, so I'm with you there. Now, when it comes to the Bills in particular, it's amazing, but some people are saying, especially with John Harbaugh getting fired by the Ravens, that Sean McDermott, the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, could be coaching for his job this weekend. Do you think, 1, that's the case, and 2, that's fair?
I think it's fair. I don't know if that's the case. McDermott, and they walked through the football wilderness for a long time before McDermott got there, and now they're a perennial playoff team and a contender. I don't know if his job is on the line because, in fact, he was hired before the GM was, Brandon Beane, and he directs reportedly to the head coach, to the owner rather. So while I think there will be a lot of frustration if the Bills do lose, I'm not sure it's going to be enough to create a change. But the fact that John Harbaugh is available should make Terry Pagula and should make the Bills organization wonder about whether it's the right move to move on from McDermott. And I think that it's a big risk because McDermott's been good, if not very good. But I do think that Harbaugh is a next-level head coach. I think it's an upgrade. Some might say it's a lateral move because Harbaugh has had the same amount of playoff calamities recently. But I think it's worth thinking about. I just don't know if that's the reality in Buffalo because the owner really likes the head coach.
Yeah, it's going to be a weird NFL playoffs, of course. No Mahomes, no Chiefs, no Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson. Do you think this is good for the NFL and what they really want when they shoot for all this parity with scheduling and the NFL draft setup? Or do you think that we might actually see a softer ratings year for the NFL playoffs because a lot of these big stars and big brands are not there this NFL postseason?
It's funny. I don't think there's anything that can puncture NFL ratings. I mean, maybe if we found ourselves with a Carolina-Jacksonville Super Bowl, but even then you would probably figure it's 95 million people watching it. It is just this kind of indisputable truth that America loves football. It loves football at the highest level. The NFL players are going to always deliver that. I think it's also an interesting mix here. While there is no Chiefs, there are familiar brands. The Rams won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Everybody knows Matt Stafford. There is Aaron Rodgers of the Pittsburgh Steelers. There is Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. There are familiar names. The Eagles are defending Super Bowl champs. Big market. The NFL has this really good mix this year where you have those teams. The Bears are a massive market. The Packers are a national brand. The Niners are a big-time brand that I don't think you can lose. The Patriots are a 2 seed. The Patriots have a lot of national equity, even if it's a new quarterback, a new head coach. I just think the NFL can't lose.
You're probably right. That's the great. The NFL can't lose. Well, the Chiefs did plenty of losing this year, DA. I want to get your 35,000-foot view as a guy who used to host a show here in Kansas City, knows this town very well, of course, still have many friends back here, and I know you pay attention to what's going on back here. So from the national radio perspective that you're doing every single day on Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, also find Damon Amendolara on YouTube as well. What are you doing if you are Brett Veach, if you are Andy Reid, and you're trying to reload and prepare for next season?
So some of this was nobody's fault. I think some of this is just the historical challenge of trying to get back to a place where you just lost. The loser of the Super Bowl, historically speaking, doesn't get back there. And if they do get back there, they don't win it. Now, the Patriots bucked that trend in 17 and 18, but before that, you'd have to go back to 71 and 72 in the Dolphins for losing a Super Bowl and then coming back and winning the Super Bowl the next year. There's a reason for that. It is exhausting to get there. It's hard to reboot and recalibrate. It's hard enough to get back there multiple years in a row, and then you got to finish the job, and the Chiefs had already done it 2 years prior to that. So coming into this season, I did not think the Chiefs would win the Super Bowl for that very reason, but I thought they'd make the playoffs. I think there's just a bit of exhaustion that the Chiefs and any franchise would go through. I do think the Kelsey thing probably has to end here at this road, and so you are now developing the next first target, first option for Mahomes. I think the offensive line needs to be better. One of the great things that the Chiefs have had in 19 and 22 and 23 when they won their Super Bowls was great offensive line play. They must get better on the offensive line. And I think it's a moment of exhale. I think play calling specifically can be something on the offensive side that is improved. And maybe that comes with a new voice, a new person on that side of the football to help out Andy Reid. So there are ways for them to improve, and I think it could be a good thing for them to have a chance to just exhale and reboot.
Damon Amendolara, find him on YouTube. Of course, used to host a show here in Kansas City, now Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio. DA, thank you as always for the time, my friend. Really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the games this weekend.
Anytime, Pete. Appreciate you. See ya.
You bet. Damon Amendolara, good stuff there on KCMO Talk Radio. News is moments away, and then what bad habit is making a comeback with young people? We'll give you that answer next.
On Friday's Guy Benson Show, former Attorney General Bill Barr will be here on Venezuela, Minnesota, and beyond. Coming up at 2 o'clock on 95.7 KCMO.
Cigarette smoking is making a comeback, baby. That's right. Good morning, 8:34. Great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio. Buy, sell, hold is 10 minutes away, and then we'll get to our in-studio Feature Friday guest. He is Nick Haines from Kansas City PBS. So several studies suggest, this from the Wall Street Journal, that 20-something smokers were drawn into the nicotine addiction through vaping when it was popular. This cohort has since abandoned vapes when they became unfashionable and turned to cigarettes. Vaping then was kind of a gateway to Marlboro Lights and American Spirits. Once again, this is coming in yesterday's Wall Street Journal. So the 20-somethings are throwing it back. They're going back to the cigs, John. And I'm watching and looking at this story, and I'm saying, you know what? It's kind of like what's old is new again.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to feel like they're part of something retro.
Yeah.
So they're smoking cigs. And honestly...
And playing dang record albums again.
Yes, the records are coming back. I have seen that with young people as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're desperately seeking some type of simplicity in their lives, because this generation of 20-somethings, like, yeah, I'm sitting here at 37, so the millennial generation kind of has this weird view of the world where you know the world pre-crazy technology, and then, of course, you now know the world in a crazy post-technology phase. Now, listen, Gen X and baby boomers do as well.
Choir, yeah.
Yes, they do as well. But in terms of like growing up with it and then also being a young adult when all this technology goes nuts, it's kind of a unique place in the middle for those who are 35 to 45 to be right now. But these younger folks, if you're in your 20s, all you know is a smartphone. Like, that's how you have been communicating since you were probably a teenager. Your whole life, the smartphone has kind of been a thing. I mean, the Apple iPhone came out in 2008. So that's 18 years ago now. If you're 25, I mean, since you were a kid, the iPhone was a thing. It existed. And as they search for, I think, simpler times, whether it's on, substance abuse, I hate to say it, or it's on things like records, you're seeing them try to seek that out. I mean, heck, you've got things like marijuana that obviously is not your grandpa's marijuana anymore. Okay, we know that. Whether it's legal or illegal, it's not what it was in the 60s or the 70s. I mean, that's a fact. It's much stronger than it ever was. You don't know now if you're doing recreational drugs, and I'm not suggesting anyone should ever do that. I'm just simply saying it's a reality of life, and now you have to worry about things like fentanyl being in this stuff. So there's something, I think, simplistic about people in their 20s being like, you know what? I'm just going to smoke a Marlboro Light. I don't need a vape, which is technology-driven. I don't need anything else. I just want to kind of feel like the cowboy sitting on that horse, smoking that Marlboro Light, putting on the cowboy hat and feeling old and cool again. That's the only conclusion I can come to here.
Oh, there's a pleasure in flicking that butt away when you're done. Off the thumbnail, and you just flick it. You do that with a vape and you've lost, what, $50 there? Something.
I think I've only smoked 2 cigarettes in my life. Maybe it's even 1. The first one came when I was in maybe 8th or 9th grade. My brother, who was younger than me, tells you a lot right there, stole 2 from our uncle and smoked them out his window. And I was like, why would anybody enjoy this? This is horrible. And he's like, this is great. And needless to say, we've lived 2 very different lives. I love him to death, but we've lived 2 very different lives. And maybe I smoke another one at some point in the last 20, 25 years, but I can't even think of when it would have been, to be honest. So it's not my thing. I'm not judging if it is. I'm just saying, for me personally, I haven't had the the joy and pleasure of flicking that butt, as you alluded to there, John.
Yep.
Not something I've spent a lot of
See
time
how far
doing.
you can go and into the wind. You could do tricks with them if you're any good.
Yeah, that's right. Mark?
I never smoked cigarettes, but I worked at a restaurant, and a lot of people picked it up just because they could get a little break when I couldn't.
See, I'm wondering about that right now, too.
So it was a way to basically not work is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
I need a smoke break.
Exactly.
It's a social thing to go out on the porch with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You never got sucked in, Mark, at all?
No, I've smoked cigars,
Yeah.
special occasions. but
I
that's
do
it.
like a good cigar. I'll probably have one or two. It used to be one or two a year. Now it's one a year, give or take. Big moments, big occasions, weddings, things like that. I will have a cigar, and I do enjoy a cigar. But the cigarette thing to me is just I don't get it. I don't get it. 913-408-7957. How you join us on KCMO? Let's go to Rosedale. Stu, go ahead. You're on KCMO Talk Radio.
Hey, Mungo, your analysis is quite correct because what drives the new popularity of smoking is, it's nothing new. It's all about hipness and coolness being more important than whether something is good for you or bad for you. And smoking has always been cool. And attempts to make it uncool have just not succeeded. A very wise man once told me that the driving force in Western civilization is, hey, look at me.
Yeah, that's good.
And so that's what's behind it, and it goes way deeper than that. I mean, that's why we have people who believe that everything that a certain demographic does is cool, and a certain thing that the characteristics of another demographic group is hopelessly lame and square.
Yeah, that's a good
even
point.
Even though Huey Lewis told us it's hip to be square, no, it's never been hip to be square.
All right, there you go. You got in the Huey Lewis. Nope. You got in your Huey Lewis reference. Thank you very much, there, Stu. You're good, buddy. You're good. I don't want. I'm trying to help you help yourself, there, Stu.
Oh,
That's
he's
what I'm
got
doing.
a million of them.
I'm just letting you look good, Stu. That's my goal here. Okay, I got to make John look good. I got to make Mark look good. I got to make the guests look good, and I got to make the callers look good. That's really, if you think about what my job is over 4 hours, it's making everybody else look good. That's it.
Touche.
That's my intended goal here. To cut John off at the right time, keep Mark in his lane, make the caller look good, and make the guest look great. That's it. And I'm just directing traffic around here. That's all I'm doing. You got in the Huey Lewis reference a little before a lot of our times, but I get it. I'm good with that. Bill O'Reilly would be proud of you. And we'll drop the mic on that one. We got buy, sell, hold coming up on KCMO. Now, speaking of, doing things, and we're just talking about, what's out there on the streets right now. Do you see this story? Ohio gubernatorial candidate Vivek Ramaswamy's family bodyguard was arrested last week and hit with federal drug trafficking charges after authorities found pills containing fentanyl, methamphetamine, and MDMA, as well as steroids, at the home he shared with his bodybuilder wife. Justin Salisbury, 43, and his wife were taken into custody December 30th following the execution of a search warrant that allegedly discovered a trove of illegal drugs, some stashed in nicotine pouch containers at the couple's home. Vivek Ramaswamy, as you may recall, ran for president a couple of years ago, but he was just doing that to kind of build up his national profile. That was the only purpose of what Vivek Ramaswamy was trying to do. And I know some of you liked him a lot. I thought he came off like a snake oil salesman, but now he's running for governor of Ohio. And apparently that is going to be a much closer race than people believe it should be, considering it's a solid red state. Vivek is, frankly, not a super popular guy. And, he's fought hard against border issues and fentanyl and things like that. And I'm not putting any of the blame on him here at all. I'm just saying now his family bodyguard gets hit with fentanyl and methamphetamine. And I'm like, dude, you got to cut ties with this guy fast. That is a bad look. And I'm looking at the mugshot of this guy. It was clear to me he's doing a lot of steroids. I don't know what his intake might be of methamphetamine and MDMA, but definitely making good use of those steroids. I'll say that much. Looking at his mugshot. Jeez. The guy's shoulders are the size of Mark's head with the hat on, with the Oregon hat on this morning. Unbelievable. It's 8:44. Coming up, we'll get to buy, sell, hold. Nick Haines is in studio. 3 questions as we take you up until 9 o'clock, and then it's Keatsman Uncanceled at 10 on 95.7 FM KCMO.
Hey, it's Vince Gallinays. Catch my new show at 11 o'clock after Kevin Keatsman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
8:48, good morning. Happy Friday. Not a red Friday, but still Friday. I think this first full week of 2026 flew by.
Yeah, I did too.
I mean, maybe it's this great weather we had all week. I don't know. But it absolutely flew by. Here we go.
It's time to buy, sell,
How about a damn 12 and a half, 15?
and hold.
All right. 3 questions there, John Anthony. What is on your rundown?
I guess I'll have to scratch up buy, sell, or hold. This week went fast.
Yeah.
All right,
Scratch
buy,
that up.
sell, or hold. The Royals will not be moving to Kansas.
I'm going to hold it. I mean, I know that, you've got the new head of the LCC, this Legislative Coordinating Council that approved the Chiefs deal, and the Speaker of the House, Dan Hawkins, saying that if the Royals want to come to Kansas, they really can't do it through the Star Bond offer anymore, but I'm not sure that's the case. I'm just not. I mean, Ty Masterson said at the end of last year that the Royals are committed to Kansas. Then there was kind of some backtracking, but not really. And based on how much Kansas politicians seem head over heels for bringing sports teams across the state line, why would I think this thing is done? Based on how this Chiefs deal is being handled, based on how the Star Bond District is apparently being drawn, based on the fact that they appear to be star screwers, which is what I'll call them. You know, there was another word instead of the word I just used that they used to refer to people as, star bleepers. The entire Kansas legislature is basically a bunch of star screwers. Why would I assume that they're actually done with the Royals? They seem like they will just try to move mountains to make it happen. I don't understand it. So even though Dan Hawkins, Speaker of the House, said this to Channel 9, I'm just not buying it.
There are other economic tools, John, but I think it would be pretty difficult to do that. We have HPIP and PEAK and some other stuff out there, but it would be tough to use those and develop enough money to really support a stadium, and so I just can't see that happening.
So Dan Hawkins is saying, like, on one hand, yeah, there's other options for them to use incentives in other ways, but then also I can't really see that happening. But like maybe the Star Bond offer is still there because let's not forget what Ty Masterson said a couple of weeks ago that the Royals are committed to Kansas. I don't know. That's why I'm holding it. I can't buy it or sell it right now.
That's what I was wondering when Dan says he's not talking to the Royals. Maybe that's because Ty already did.
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
Or Laura Kelly, or I don't know who.
Somebody. Right?
Somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing's just, a joke at this point. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think Kansas is done in the sense that people are thinking right now. Mm-hmm. I think that door is still very much open.
Some clues.
Yeah.
All right. Buy, sell, or hold Trump's handling of the Minnesota shooting.
I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it because when Trump is not the story, that typically means he's handled it pretty well. Like when something that he puts on social media is suddenly not the lead on the story of the day or the week, that's a good thing. Okay?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When I have more clips on the story from Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and even J.D. Vance than I do Donald Trump, that's a win for the administration. Trump is better off letting his policies do the talking for him than he is his words. And I know that he probably would never want to hear that. And no one could ever tell him that in his inner circle. But it's true. It's true.
The ultimate Trump troll would be sure to fill up with cheap gas as you go to your next protest. Right?
Enjoy that $2.25 a gallon. That's, that's drill, baby, drill.
Thank you for your attention.
Yes. No, I think he's done a very good job. The only thing I'll disagree with, and it's fairly minor, but I will say, listen, I don't agree with how this woman, Renee Good, went about her business. She clearly impeded law enforcement. She clearly broke multiple laws leading up to her shooting. Does it mean she deserved to get shot and get killed? No, but she broke a lot of laws. Do I think that calling her a domestic terrorist is like super helpful and turns down the temperature? I don't. Do I think she's a radical? Do I think she's someone who broke the law? Yes. But when something like that happens, and there is somewhat of a gray area there, I think that turning down the temperature as much as possible is important. Not that the administration should not defend its own ICE officer. They should. And they're doing the right thing on that front. Because ICE has been targeted more than any other law enforcement agency in the country over the last 12 months. And the media has done a horrible job. I mean, I think it was a national story that was pulled by one of our local media outlets, so I don't want to rag on them. I think it might have been Channel 9 that said ICE has shot 15 people or something this year, as if they're just walking up and down the street shooting people. It's like the headline is so disingenuous, the way they talk about this stuff. So they have been targeted directly and indirectly by activists, by an entire political party, and by media for 12 months. So this administration should have ICE's back. But I think words like domestic terrorist don't really help. This was a knucklehead who got radicalized and who, yes, was a lawbreaker, but domestic terrorist feels like a bridge too far.
I'm with you there, I think, but it does raise the bar and say, no, you're not a social justice warrior necessarily. You think of yourself as a kind, good thing, but the government views it otherwise at the moment.
That's true. And just real quick, here was the story I saw. ICE immigration officials have shot at people at least 16 times in Trump's second term. I mean, wow. That is so disingenuous.
As opposed to the 16 times he's been shot at.
Yeah,
more or less.
Seriously, it's that's bad journalism. Because the headline makes it seem like ICE is just walking up and down the streets. Oh, let's target practice.
That's what they want to try to imply, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. All right, what's next?
Buy, sell, or hold, the NFL Wildcard playoff from Mr. Mark Van Sickle. We have the parlay set up.
All right, Mark. So a parlay means everything has to happen in this list of things you're giving me to hit. So what do you have courtesy of our friends at FanDuel?
So, I've been on FanDuel. You get a 50% boost for any NFL wildcard weekend play. Mm-hmm. So if you want to do that, you can get on that. I'm going to do one leg from each game.
Okay.
So 6 games this weekend, 6 legs.
Okay.
Going to start Saturday with the Rams game. Puka Nacua, 60 yards receiving.
Oh, my gosh. These are not just to win. You're actually going to do player props within the game?
One player prop from each game.
All right. You're going to put this on KCMO, Talk Radio, Facebook, and
I will
X?
do.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. All right. So the Rams, Puka Nacua, over 60 receiving yards.
Yes. Josh Jacobs, running back for the Packers, 50 yards rushing or more.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence, quarterback for the Jaguars, 200 passing yards or more.
Okay.
Christian McCaffrey, running back from the San Francisco 49ers, rushing and receiving yards, 80 yards or more.
Okay.
Drake May, quarterback for the Patriots, 200 yards passing or more. And the final one, Kenneth Gainwell, running back for the Steelers, 25 yards receiving or more. He's done that in 7 of the last 8 games. Aaron Rodgers can't pass downfield anymore, so he dumps it off to him all the time.
What was the Packers-Bears prop?
Josh Jacobs, running back, 50 yards rushing or more.
Who's Jacobs with? The Packers?
He's Packers, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I got to sell it, Mark.
Okay, that's all right.
I got to sell it, buddy.
It's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff.
10 to win $65.
And I have a hard time buying something when I don't know some of these guys, to be honest. I mean, I'm a big sports fan, but I'm not watching Steelers football.
How about Valdez-Scantling to drop 2?
That's
that one you know.
That one I do know. And by the way, this Packers-Bears game, it's going to be like 9 degrees, snowy and windy.
That's why I think they're going running backs.
That was smart of you to go running back in that game in particular. I'm skeptical of that game leading to a lot of points and yards. So I'm with you. Your mind's in the right place when it comes to riding a running back in that game. But I don't know, man. We're talking about 9 degrees, snow and wind. I would have rather you picked a team to win in that game versus a player prop.
That's the biggest toss-up game for me, though.
I
didn't know who to pick in the Bears and Packers this weekend.
That's true. I probably would roll Packers. All right. Buy, sell, hold in the books. Nick Haines, Kansas City PBS, will be here for our in-studio Feature Friday conversation. Talk all things Kansas City in 2026 next. It is our first full week of 2026. We're wrapping it up, and we are happy to welcome in studio our good friend, Kansas City PBS's own Nick Haines, joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. Good morning, my friend.
Well, good morning, Pete. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year. Or has the statute of limitations run out on that greeting?
No. I think it's good until we hit double digits in the year. So
really?
Tomorrow's the deadline.
Thank you.
On wishing people a happy new year. Are you good with that deadline, or do you prefer a deadline
later?
That
sounds good. I think Larry David once said on a national program it was January 7th, which means I would be in violation of every protocol known in America.
We would not want to violate Larry David. That would not be a good thing. He's an American institution. So, I mean, my goodness, Nick, can you believe the news cycle of this town during what is supposed to be one of the slowest times of the year?
It has been, and for somebody, Pete, as you know, I do a pre-recorded program. It has been absolutely infuriating. The entire Christmas break, I was waiting for the next shoe to drop. In fact, while we're even doing this right now, the Chiefs, the Royals are probably coming up with a press release to say they're going to make an announcement this afternoon and they're moving to Oklahoma City. You just don't really, actually, with that Chiefs announcement.
Yeah.
And all on Christmas week.
Yes.
All happening as it did. It's like all bets are off. That you can do basically anything.
So what did you do for your year-end review show? Because, I've been a part of that in recent years, and you do a great job with it. But what did you do with that news dropping the Monday before Christmas? Because I assume, as you noted, since the cat's out of the bag, you pre-recorded the week prior.
I sure did. We recorded it on the Friday. This is the first time people are hearing this information. But I think actually this ties in beautifully with what is happening in our political world, the stadiums, and what happens really in the media and the complexities there. But the reality was that nobody was guaranteeing that the decision was going to be made on Monday, that they were definitely going to leave. In fact, the intel at that point, yes, you had people in the sports jock world community who had been rumoring this since May. The Royals were moving to the Aspiria campus because they bought the mortgage. How much weight did you have to put in this? They'd cried wolf so many times. It could be that they're going to outline a plan. It wasn't going to be the deal. So, it was like the soccer player, the goalkeeper who has to decide which direction they were going to go in the net. So we try to play it cool. Anyway, by the Monday, it's all happening. I had to then call people in. Now, I was already the Ebenezer Scrooge of the station because actually we lost all of our federal funding, as you know, last year.
Yes.
And part of that was that, no pay raises, and our management is now giving staff time off in lieu of getting any cash, you see. So, this was a production shutdown, but I called people in. We revoiced the whole thing, recut the show to accommodate that change that took place. But it was absolutely infuriating and really sort of destroyed my entire Christmas. And again, we're now in that same boat. And I was thinking even New Year, could the Royals now come forward with a plan just before we start the new year? You do not know when the next shoe is going to drop. And it's interesting when we think about that, it's the fatigue, you and I have where we're in this business. You never know what's going to happen. And even what was happening in Minneapolis with the ice shooting, yes, it's happening there. And it was very small tie-ins we are talking about with Kansas City. Mm-hmm. The woman had lived here for a short period of time. But, we want to make this a big deal. She's from Kansas City, But, it could be what type of protests are going to happen.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of ripple effects you can't quite project at that moment in time. And it's really, again, by the end of the day, you are totally exhausted.
So what you're telling me is that part of the 2026 plans for Kansas City Week in Review on PBS is going to be to go live on Friday nights at 7:30.
If we could.
That's going to be, I love you, Nick. That's going to be a tough sell for me to come in live on Friday nights.
The other thing that people don't realize is that the other thing we did was we outsourced our master control to New York. And that meant that we can't actually do a show that live like that without very special circumstances. So we have to ship the show, satellite-wise to New York. Then they bring it back again for us to broadcast. So there has to be a delay. So it is an infuriating position, particularly as the news has never moved faster.
I know.
And yet the time between when we record a program and air it has never been greater. So my time, and I'm the front man for this, and so it's a challenge. But again, we come every single week, and we always have to have the humility to say we don't always get it right. We have a chance to correct ourselves the week later, and we can still move on and go through that.
Well, you do an amazing job with that show. So thank you for being a part of the Kansas City community, bringing us that show. Whether I'm on it or not,
Well,
I
thank
watch
you,
it,
Pete.
Nick,
Thank
okay?
you.
It's great television every single week. Your pacing is fantastic. No one has your pacing. You know and I know. Attention spans are nothing these days. You got to keep these shows entertaining and keep them moving and keep them short and sweet.
You know, there was a guy who reached out. Actually, and so when I finessed the show the way I did, the response of that show was amazing. And I thought, oh, that was good. But one man reached out to me and he said, one of our viewers, Nick, you need to record that show on New Year's Day and rent out a larger studio with all these people. I think, wow. What wonderful ideas, but who are all these people I'm working with to make that happen? And I think about it, though, as a secret compliment, because in some respects, it gives you the sense that what you're dealing with is such a professional enterprise that people don't see what's happening behind the scenes. You know, I'm the one booking all the guests, writing the script, getting the graphics together, working with the editor to get every single shot of video that you see in the program. You know, there's a lot going on, and that's me. And I might be cleaning the restrooms in between, Pete.
All right. Well, hey, nothing I haven't done in my radio heyday.
Okay.
I remember cleaning a toilet in Oklahoma at my first radio job and saying, you know, I love this business. I'm not sure I'm meant to be cleaning the toilets, but I will do it as the low man on the totem pole. I was happy to fall on that sword. So let's just touch on this stadium thing. I mean, there was some reporting now. The Star had this the other day. Matt Fleener had a story on it this morning as well, saying that we may have to wait 3 years to learn about the inner workings of a multi-billion-dollar stadium deal on the Chiefs. Unified Government denied a request for Channel 9 for any emails between city and county leaders. They cite a 2024 state law to lure the Chiefs or Royals to Kansas using star bonds, and they have said that associated documentation about any stadium deal could be confidential until July 1 of 2029.
Yes, it is still confidential. We don't know all of the details, what's going to be offered to Wyandotte County, you know, particular officials. We simply do not know how big that Star Bond district is going to be. Will flex and move around. It could include parts of Oakville Park, Leawood that are not part of it currently. That's all still to be really decided. So many details still to be determined. The other component of that, when you talk about the confidentiality aspect, which to me has been the most fascinating thing, you know, we learn through the Chiefs deal that, you know, now the headquarters for the Chiefs and the training facilities are going to be in Olathe. And they were working on that for 2 years in secret with Olathe. Now, first of all, where was the media during any period of that time? That they could keep that confidential for that period of time, which meant that they were actually negotiating that deal prior to the failed stadium vote in Jackson County in 2024. So it begs you to say, well, even if the voters had said yes to that deal in 2024, yes to the Royals, yes to the Chiefs, could they have still moved to Kansas anyway?
That's an interesting point. Now, as someone who's obviously a journalist and a reporter, how much does it bother you that there's this secrecy tied into all this? I understand non-disclosure agreements being a part of any major discussion, but now waiting 3 years to find out any of the inner workings and backroom details, it stinks to me.
Well, it's not good for the public, but again, we have no say in it.
Yeah.
There'll be no public votes on the Kansas side for this. If you think about, that's what the mayor was trying to do in Kansas City with the new airport. That was Sly James. He wanted to have this confidential deal. It all blew up in his face there, and they got wind of it, and then it was forced into a public vote. But all of that was, the attempt was to do all of that privately. It's hard to believe that today you can do that, and with all of the players involved, that we're not going to learn those details. So yes, they may be saying that now. I just cannot believe that now that we know the cat is out of the bag where they're moving to, is that some of those details, one official in all of this chain of command from Topeka to Wyandotte County, is not going to reveal some component of that, in the weeks ahead.
That's a good point. Now, what do you think this means for 26 politically? You have a lot of people involved in this deal who are running for statewide office, not just governor, but other races as well. Do you think there's been some surprise from these folks on maybe some of the blowback? And how does it play out in the months to come with some of these people wanting higher office?
Well, first of all, he's not running for higher office, but I thought it was interesting that the House Speaker said this week, boy, I can't even believe this is still news.
Well, Dan Hawkins?
Yes.
But isn't he running for insurance commissioner?
Well, okay, but not for absolutely. For insurance commissioner, not for governor.
Correct.
But that is correct. But that he couldn't even believe it was still news. I thought that was totally.
He said that?
Yes, he did. He still couldn't work out why this was still news. Because,
are you kidding me?
Yes. So I think that's interesting. And yes, you've got Ty Masterson, who is running as the Kansas Senate president to be the next governor of Kansas to replace Laura Kelly, in a very crowded primary where everyone is going to try, and you've got like 9 Republican candidates where everyone, by and large, is trying to portray themselves as Trump supporters and being more conservative than the other. There is going to be, this is going to be somebody winning this with a fraction of the vote. What kinds of little issues can come up that can divide these candidates? And Ty Masterson's full-throated support for the stadium deal, and if that blows up, what he has said about the Royals, but also the Panasonic plant. He was the one involved in all of those. And if there are all types of problems with these deals, then that's going to blow up in his face and would be a great defining issue that can separate some of the candidates from one another.
That's a very good point. Nick Haines, Kansas City PBS Weekend Review airing tonight. Are you guys on tonight?
We
7:30?
are on tonight at 7:30,
all right. Just making sure. I know you do some of those fundraising drives early in the year.
That's only 43 weeks of the year, Pete, so let's not exaggerate on that one.
All right, we'll take a quick break with Nick Haines. We'll continue to look at the top stories to come this year in Kansas City next on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM, and stream us as always on the KCMO Talk Radio app.
From Gladstone to Gardner, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Not a better bounce back for Nick Haines, Kansas City PBS on KCMO. Good morning, my friend. Great to have you back.
You could also change that to say also from the UK to Kansas City. Yeah. That's the expansion now, the geographic foothold that you have now on the entire world because of this.
That is so true. Hey, the World Cup, of course, coming to Kansas City. That will probably be one of our top stories this year. There's excitement, there's intrigue, there's enthusiasm. What is going to make that successful in this community?
Well, let me just say this first of all. I thought it was very interesting when we look again at the Minnesota shooting this week. And again, I'm thinking, there's a little bit of a tie into Kansas City. What is this really ripple effect? We could have protests. The other thing I was thinking about, I really pursue the World Cup. Even though I'm not a huge sports fan, I track all of the trends on that issue, I have to say.
Yes.
And you are already seeing a lot of places in Europe, if you look at the social media Twitter, we need to boycott the World Cup as a result of this. Do not buy tickets. So you've got a little bit of that going on. So one of my producers says, well, they just said that they got... I mean, the interest in this World Cup has never been greater. They've sold more tickets than ever in the history of it. And I said, well, okay, calm down here a little bit. First of all, you're in 3 countries for the first time, so you've got 500 million people who are home countries for this, so that's a little bit easier. But also they expanded the tournament. You've gone from 32 to 48 teams. And from 64 matches that you had when it was in Qatar 4 years ago to 104. So, of course, so it was kind of meaningless to say you're selling more tickets. You've got a lot more teams who are going to have an interest, and you've got a lot more matches to put people into stadiums. So I sort of push back a little bit about that. But certainly there's going to be a lot of issues that we still don't know that are going to come up prior to that time. What's the world going to look like in June? Transportation is still the big issue. When you got the Netherlands coming in, now that we know who the teams are, and they have some good power, the reigning champions, Argentina, the Netherlands. The Netherlands is one of those teams that loves to march to the stadiums. They can march 15 miles, to a stadium. That's what they do. Down I-70? Absolutely. So the kind of policing necessary here, and I think the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, because we've actually been involved in another project with them, about the World Cup, and they've been thinking about everything, getting officers learning foreign languages, and already doing a lot of simulations. What happens if somebody takes over a bus and all of this manner? No, but it's really kind of the thought that's already gone into this. They're really seriously looking at this, and so transportation always still trying to work out how people from other countries would try to navigate Kansas City. We view it as people from the United States coming here. Others have very different views of how you move around. For example, most places in the world, we even have journalists who come from the BBC who want to come to Kansas City, and they say, hey, Nick, I'm going to be in Boston, and I thought I'd take the train to Kansas City. They have no necessarily clue of how that works.
Yeah, they can do that. We'll see in 3 days,
absolutely.
Right?
Yes. And the other thing which I find interesting in this, we've always viewed ourselves as this cheap part of the world for seeing the World Cup, and, the tickets would be cheaper and all of this. But the reality is, if you look at most of these blogs internationally, they're talking about, Toronto being the most expensive place to go. But if you really want to get a cheap deal, go to Houston. That's where the cheapest accommodation is. Or Mexico, you can get a vacation. And then you want to be in a hub because you never know where your team is going to go. So you want to be in a place like, if you're in Mexico, you can easily go over to Texas to see the games there, or Boston and New York. Kansas City is not a draw in that way because when your team goes somewhere else, it costs a fortune
not as
to
many
go someplace else. There's nowhere else you can go. As my family finds, we had a wedding a few years ago, and my brother said they were coming. They said the flight from London to New York and then New York to Kansas City, that flight from New York to Kansas City was more expensive than going from London, and they didn't come.
Wow.
So, yes, so those types of things are still important when you're thinking about the overall package of coming to a World Cup.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah, we do not have the direct flights that a Houston or a New York or an Atlanta may have. That's a great point. Nick Haines, Kansas City PBS is here. Okay, so it's not the sexiest thing, but I want to hit on this quickly. Both sides of our state line set to begin their legislative sessions next week. What is the thing to watch in Missouri? And what is the thing to watch in Kansas as they get set to go back to session?
Well, I've read a biblical verse that said, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord." Can Missouri lawmakers also exact vengeance on the Kansas City Chiefs? You've seen all of that, all these bills now being pre-filed. to make the Chiefs pay for demolition costs, putting surcharges on tickets to try and recoup for the losses. But there are some parts to that are going to be important to in the very immediate part of the session. Some of those may be too far-fetched. But remember, the state of Missouri is still spending $3 million a year on maintenance costs for the Arrowhead Stadium. Kansas City is spending $2 million in every year on maintenance costs. At this point, do they now say, you know what? We're not going to do this anymore. Now, they could say, the Chiefs say, sue me, but they're going to be leaving anyway. So I think that's going to be an interesting component, what happens there. And then you've got Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe, his number one priority, and that's eliminating the income tax. That seems like an audacious move. 9 states have already done it, though, including even smaller states like South Dakota and New Hampshire do not have an income tax. How that would work, and where you'd fill the gaps, I think that's going to be a big part of that session.
All right. Then Kansas side of state line. What are you watching there?
Well, it's going to be a much more condensed session. We do know now, because that was the other announcement this week from Missouri, the Kansas House Speaker, Dan Hawkins, that they were not going to revisit the map issue, at least in the House, that he simply did not have the votes to do the redistricting. So that is going to take a lot of attention away from that issue, allowing them to look at some other things. With so many of those lawmakers looking for higher office, including some of the Democrats who are running for governor, who are in the state Senate, looking for things to make life more affordable and showing that they're doing that, and potentially cutting taxes and particularly on the homeowner front. Property taxes they promised before never really happened. This would be the year to do that.
Okay. Nick Haines, Kansas City PBS is here on KCMO Talk Radio as we talk about the top stories that we're watching in Kansas City, not just this week, this month, but this year, Nick. And it seems like the sexiest thing this year, politically speaking, will be the Kansas governor's race. Is that fair, or do you think that it might not be all that compelling?
I thought the biggest thing of 2026 was the cliffhanger of whether Travis Kelce was resigning.
Well, maybe. I mean, the Swifties are interested in that. I mean, I sounds to me like he's coming back based on what he said on his podcast this week, but we'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Kansas governor's race, we have a United States Senate race in Kansas, too, with Roger Marshall. But despite what Democrats say about that, almost every single possible chart that you'll find nationally of any look at that race, and the most vulnerable senators in America for this year, he is not on that list.
No.
And so that you can put by the wayside. The Kansas governor's race has got 9 Republican candidates, more than a dozen overall. That's a pretty darn big deal, which means it's interesting. A lot of them are big names. Some of them we've already talked about, that you can win this race with just a fraction of the vote. We've got a former governor, Jeff Collier. I have to say, he's the only one I've actually seemed to get things from every single week. And when I'm on social media, on Twitter, the pop-up ads for him. I mean, so he's really getting out there. He certainly has a lot of name recognition. But remember, he did lose the primary in 2018 against Chris Kobach.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's, is he now damaged goods in that regard? We shall see. The other thing is, though, could there be other candidates still come forward? Remember the story from last year about former Royals general manager Dayton Moore going on a listening tour of Kansas? He still has time to get into this race.
That's true. All right, last thing in the final minute. You got a prediction for Quentin Lucas here in 2026 and beyond in his final full year?
Well, it's interesting. It's always been sort of turning towards Congress, but I have another view on that. And it was a sleeper story that took place because everybody was fixated at the end of the year with the stadiums. But the head of the Mid-America Regional Council, the coordinating government for the entire metropolitan area, David Warren, announced he was retiring and will retire in 2026 after 35 years in this agency. It is the only regional role, really, we have in Kansas City. I think that would be a great landing spot for Quentin Lucas, with a hefty salary bump for him, and to finally make good on his tweets that say, hello, welcome, good morning, Kansas City and surrounds. That's the only thing he can say where he could be in a role where he could incorporate those surrounds. That would be a role where he'd be on both sides of state line.
All right, Mid-America Regional Council chieftain for Quentin Lucas. That's the prediction for Nick Haines. I like him, my man. Hey, thank you for coming in on a Friday. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I think Quentin will also have to drive his own vehicle if he gets that job. Just saying. All right, caller of the day on one of the more dramatic stories of the day in Kansas City, coming up next.
On Friday's Guy Benson Show, former Attorney General Bill Barr will be here on Venezuela, Minnesota, and beyond. Coming up at 2 o'clock on 95.7 KCMO.
All right, before we get to our caller of the day, let's just dip in here to old Jake the Snake. Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis. Mark, have your finger on the dump button. He may drop an F-bomb like he can oftentimes do. Here he is.
With a hip injury that he might as well have gotten from closing a refrigerator door with his hips. He was not injured. I've seen worse injuries from doing that. And so give me a break. No, he was not ran over. He walked out of there with a hop in his step. And so we just got to get to the point where we're at least operating from, hey, this is like, we're looking at it on the video screen. This is what we're seeing. Can we all see that he wasn't run over? And then, J.D. Vance, this concept of absolute immunity is pretty bizarre.
How concerning is that?
Very concerning. It's extremely concerning. That's why we're asking for the BCA to be part of the investigation.
We have time for about 2 more questions. Does someone have a question for someone other than my boss?
For the timeline here, like how fast moving this is there a point at which the state loses access to the investigation?
Do you want to answer that? I don't know the exact timeline, but I imagine the answer is yes. Go for it.
Jamie Long, State Representative, Minneapolis Representative. There have been instances in the past where the FBI has shared information weeks after or even months after. It would be much better if the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension were able to be involved right now. There is time-sensitive evidence. There are memory lapses that happen if you aren't able to interview witnesses right away. And so they were invited by the FBI to participate in the investigation jointly originally. And then for some reason they decided to walk away. We are asking for their full participation as the FBI intended originally. They were clearly told by somebody that they couldn't participate anymore. And when you have the President of the United States, the Vice President, the FBI Director of Homeland Security already coming to conclusions, and then they are told on the ground that they can no longer be involved with local investigators, that causes a lot of concern. And to us, time is important, but they should be involved in the investigation at any time that they're allowed to be.
One more question. We could talk a little bit about this. Have you had interaction with them since this
Jacob Fry.
So the question is whether I can talk or describe about interactions with Ms. Gooden, who she was as a person. It would be completely inappropriate for me to do so because there are other people that really knew her, and I did not.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right, that's it. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry. So what he wants and what he is asking for is that the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension be involved in the investigation, while at the same time saying that ICE agent could have just jumped out of the way from the car. This guy's watching too many Tom Cruise movies. That's what he's doing. Now, the DOJ, as I understand it, is going to be, the FBI is going to be investigating the shooting. So, people make this claim all the time. When there's a shooting in Kansas City, what happens? What happens is, and this was actually policy that came out of 2020. If there's any good policy that came out of 2020, there's 2 things for Kansas City. One is body cameras came in. They were privately donated. No cop should be walking the streets today without a body camera. You got to have them. I mean, you can't take a job as a cop without a body camera these days because cell phone video will make it look like you're in the wrong. It won't tell the full story. You want to have the body camera if you're an honest cop. So we got that. We also got now KCPD no longer investigates itself when there's an officer-involved shooting. That's good. That's good policy. That's handled now by the Missouri Highway Patrol. So those are the only 2 good policies that came out of the craziness of 2020. But I think that they're both good policies. ICE is overseen by the Department of Homeland Security. So the FBI is going to investigate the shooting. the conspiracy theorist will say the FBI is going to do whatever it needs to do to make sure that the ICE agent involved in the shooting is cleared, and that's going to be that. Well, those are the same people who claim right now that even though KCPD no longer investigates itself, you have law enforcement investigating law enforcement, and they're always going to look out for their own. You can believe that, but then when you look at how it actually plays out, you'll never be satisfied. You'll never be satisfied because you will always be of the belief that no matter what, law enforcement is going to stand up for its own guys or gals. And this just feels like an ask from Jacob Fry, who just looks like, he looked like crap. You either got to go full bear or you got to be clean shaven. He looked like he just rolled out of bed after a bender is what he looked like.
Yeah, like he hasn't slept in a few days.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. Listen, I know you got a lot going on this week, but either go full beard or go clean shaven. It just, he did not look good. But neither here nor there. I don't know why they think that, but it dives into the whole idea of this is Trump pulling the strings, Trump playing puppet master, Trump being a king. He's going to tell the FBI to make sure you clear this guy and the whole thing. So it has to feed into their narrative that they've been selling to largely their own base for the better part of the last, 12 months at this point. So that's why they're doubling down on this. That's the reason for it. Let's get to our caller of the day. It comes out of a story we did early this morning, and that's at Oak Park, where the assistant principal has resigned over allegations of inappropriate behavior. Got a couple of emails last night from parents up there who, after the story broke, were very concerned about the way that business is done within the North Kansas City School District, specifically at Oak Park High School. Some of the things that go on inside, outside the classroom, some of the indoctrination that is happening, and parents saying, I'm not surprised this is going on. Let's get to our caller of the day.
Hello? It's the Mundo in the Morning caller of the day on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Sam is in the Northland, and Sam has a granddaughter in the district. Sam, good morning.
Pete, I really appreciate your show. I listen to you every morning, and you're not afraid to tackle any issue that affects our community up here in the Northland or anywhere else in the city.
You bet, Sam. Thanks so much, man. What's going on up there in the district?
Well, this has gone on for more than just here recently. Information I received that it's been over a year. They've had problems with more than one teacher up there with issues like this. And my granddaughter told me last night that the students are organizing a walkout for this afternoon up there at the school because they haven't addressed this problem.
Because they're having a what problem?
Because they haven't addressed this problem with other adults up there.
Oh, because they have not addressed the problem with other adults.
Right. It hadn't just happened. They should have addressed this a long time ago, but they failed to do so.
Are the allegations, from what your granddaughter is telling you, that whether it's this assistant principal or anybody, is it relationships between employees and students?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And it's I'm not going to get explicit in it, but it's not proper for any of this stuff to be going on.
And you're saying that the students believe that this is not a one-off?
Right.
Wow. And this specific... sorry, go ahead there, Sam.
But, all the things they allow in these schools and teach these kids these days leads to this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's no boundaries. There's no morality in, anything they teach your kids these days, it seems like.
Well, and that's what the email was that I received last night from a parent, and he just said, the sexualization of everything is certainly is not maybe the direct cause, but it doesn't help at all. And that was the allegation from the parent last night. And it sounds to me that's exactly what you're saying as well.
Yes.
Wow.
That's for sure.
Oh, boy.
I could list some other things that I've seen firsthand up there. And I graduated from Oak Park back in 1967, and it's not the same school whatsoever.
Yeah, 60 years, that'll do it. Not the same place it was in 1967, which was not yesterday. But, that's true for a lot of these school districts around Kansas City. Doesn't matter where you are, up north, out Lee Summit, Johnson County, Wyandotte County. It's across the board right now. You got to be careful with this stuff. No doubt about it. We'll wrap up the week with Keatsman, our first conversation in a few weeks since we've had some time off here these last couple of Fridays. Looking forward to that before Kevin Keatsman uncanceled at 10 o'clock. And by the way, if you want to join us next Wednesday in Liberty, we'll be making up our event at Three Halves Brewing, 5 p.m. Got the Mizzou game on at 6 that night. We'll be there 5 to 7 coming up next Wednesday. You can RSVP right now at KCMOTalkRadio.com. Join us for the KCMO Happy Hour, January 14th, Three Halves Brewing in Liberty. KCMOTalkRadio.com to RSVP.
from the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
We are wrapping up the week. Keatsman Uncanceled coming up at 10 o'clock. Happy New Year, my friend. How are you?
I am well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Hey, tell me you're not having more fun. I mean, look at this news cycle that we've got in this line of work versus if you were still doing every day, grinding out 4 hours of sports talk radio, breaking down the April NFL draft. I mean, we're going a mile a minute. I genuinely feel bad for those guys right now. They got nothing.
Well, I feel guilty a little bit that our programming is so good because the news is so bad. I mean,
Well,
there's
true.
something a little bit dirty about that, but it's better than spending 3 hours a day asking who the Chiefs' tight end will be next year. That's not fun programming.
What would you do in January of those dark years? I mean, was it just all KU, K-State, Mizzou basketball, or like would you just kind of do whatever you wanted?
Well, some of those years the Chiefs weren't any good, so we didn't have that to fall back on. But right now, you can probably in sports radio just talk Chiefs all day long, and it will get – it's like the left base. You know, it's like Tim Walz or Jacob Fry, who you just played, having a news conference just talking to the 20% base. I feel like that's what some Chiefs off-season programming is on sports radio. It's just feed them a little red meat, and maybe they'll stick around.
Yeah, that's a good point. So when you're going through the lean years, though, and you're doing sports radio every day, was this the worst time of the year if the Chiefs weren't playing playoff football, or was there another time of the year that was the worst?
It was summer. It was always summer because the Royals traditionally have been very, very bad. And the Chiefs seasons weren't like now. You didn't look forward to them. You know, when Todd Haley was the head coach, you weren't spending July talking about, oh, it's going to be a great training camp. We can't wait to get there and see what's going on. You know, it wasn't like that. You know, I think they had a quarterback named Tyler Thigpen at one point.
There you go.
It's like, no, we weren't spending much time talking about Tyler Thigpen in June and July. So when the Royals were off losing 106 games, it was really rough in the summer. We did weird things. We did old school stuff. We did Tradio one summer.
Wow.
I don't know if people know what Tradio is. It was people would call in and offer an item up, and you'd trade it for another item. Our producer, who's just an outstanding journalist and a great guy, Todd Lebo, and we continue to just be great friends. He's just unbelievable. He would actually, if they'd allow him, he'd be a great Friday conversation for you sometime. I don't know if they'd allow him to come on with you, but if they did, they wouldn't allow him to come on with me. I know that. He's been banned from my podcast and the radio show, but he might be able to come on with you. This guy's unbelievable. He passed a kidney stone one year, and we turned a kidney stone into a brand new Ford Probe. I'm not kidding. It was like 81 trades. We did it every day. We had people. Hey, I'll give you the first thing. I think was like I've got a $2 or a silver dollar, a Kennedy silver dollar. We'll trade for the Lebo kidney stone, and then the next thing was I don't know, a gift certificate at Jazz Louisiana Kitchen or something. And it just kept trading and trading and trading. And eventually, the owner of Shawnee Mission Ford kicked in a Ford Probe. It was unbelievable.
That's amazing. Well, it is to your original point where we started the conversation. You know, sometimes I have people say, like after a presidential election or something, like, well, what are you going to talk about now? It's like, first off, politics is not like all we do. It's a portion of what we do. And then the news cycle just does not end these days. It's cliche, but it's 24/7, 365. And especially, you know, in Trump world now, it just keeps going and getting wilder, which, to your point, the bad news can be good for us a lot of times. That's just a fact. And, you know, we're kind of in one of those phases right now the last week. You think about Venezuela, that feels like a month ago now, Kevin, doesn't it?
It does. You know, I credit a guy that I don't think is particularly talented, and I don't really like listening to him all that much, but he was onto something, and that's Clay Travis with Outkick. He's made a lot of money. He's got a national show. He's sold off to Fox and all that. What he basically said was, I'm going to do a website that features what people are talking about. And it was mostly sports, but then it started incorporating politics and news and whatever. What KCMO Talk Radio does, and what's so great about what you've built here, is mostly every day what you hear in our local programming is what people in Kansas City are talking about. That's it. That's the crux of what we do. If you ran into a stranger in a line at Walmart while you're waiting 8 minutes to check out or something like that, and you were doing casual conversation that turned into something about, hey, how about the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl this week? Or do you think Travis Kelce's this or that? Everybody's talking about Renee Good right now.
Yeah.
Hey, she used to live in Kansas City. She lived in Waldo, this or that. She had a Kansas City Current bumper sticker on her car. we talk about what people are talking about, and that's so empowering and so, dude, I don't know, man. You did sports before too. It's so freeing to just be able to talk about what people are interested in.
And I'll never forget doing a sports talk show, filling in middle of the night, like July 4th on CBS Sports Radio. And, a guy calls up and he wants to talk about the Eagles' backup wide receivers. And I'm like, man, I don't care. I just don't care. I didn't say that on the air, but it's just like, I don't care. And to your point, the beauty of this station and where I think the format needs to be is just talk about whatever people are talking about in your town. It doesn't need to be like politics or sports. It's just what are people having conversations on? And we're not shackled down to the sports or the topic or the politics, despite what some people think. So you're right about that, and I think it's working out. It's definitely working out great for us, and you're a big part of that, my friend, and I appreciate you being here. And you ready for 26? Full year ahead? Full steam
Buddy,
ahead?
I'm ready. I'm ready. 2026 is going to be a great year. Let's do it. We just keep winning at every turn, man. We've got to get control of a lot of our local government.
Yes.
We still have things out of control locally. But, man, with what's going on with the Trump administration, the numbers we've seen with the economy and things that are happening, I just don't see anything but good things for America right now. It just looks full speed ahead to me, and I'm very excited. Yes.
I'm with you as well. What do you have going on this weekend, my friend?
I don't have much this weekend. We're just gonna kick back and relax and watch a little football and do almost nothing, which is the great part of not having little children in the house, Pete. We have a dog that needs to go out about 3 or 4 times a day, and that's about it.
Oh, thank you for the tease. That's I appreciate that. And Van Sickle's got a parlay. I'll let him run that by you during your show. It's player prop parlay. It's too much.
His parlays wear me out. Nobody can follow him. Nobody knows what they are. He tried to. What was that thing he tried to hook us up in a couple of weeks ago? Did you partake in that?
The pass a leg. Yeah, you each pick a leg in the parlay, and then you guys roll from there.
Mark, here's my word for you. Out.
You're out. Okay.
I'm out.
I picked a leg, but I think I picked the Broncos minus 13 against the Chiefs. So my leg missed, so the parlay didn't hit.
Yeah.
But I think your leg missed too, Mark, right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Mine hit. I took the Broncos to win the game, and you guys made fun of me and said, oh, you can't pick that. I'm like, why can't I? Your legs suck. I'm going to pick one that wins. I'm not going to be the loser in this group.
He did pick that. Mark and I picked losers in the parlay, I believe, is how that went down. So Keatsman gets the last laugh, as is always the case. He was spot on with the analysis.
But there was no odds in it. There was no money to be made.
Well, true. That's a fair point. Well, I don't know. Mark's got a crazy parlay cooked up for the weekend, and I think it's just for Mark. It's a way for him to get super ingrained in every single game because I don't know if you've got basketball games this weekend, Mark, or what you've got going on with the kids, but you are going to be locked in starting tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, yeah. You can follow each game, one leg per game, and then you just hope that guy hits. So that's why it's fun.
He was complaining his KU parlay didn't hit. They scored 104 points. He bet on overs across the board, and it still didn't hit.
I did have Trey White 6 rebounds. He was the only starter that didn't get 6 rebounds. So, yeah, that cost me.
204 points scored in the game, and he didn't hit his parlay of overs.
Oh, man. All right, I got a minute here. Darren Peterson, are you buying Darren Peterson stock or are you selling it at KU?
Man, he's a great player. I think, my gut tells me that by the end of the year, he's going to be a 36-minute-a-game guy, and they're going to be a better basketball team. I think their ceiling is pretty high. I don't think they're national champions, but I think it's a really good team if he plays the full game. He played a lot the other night. Conference season matters. The NCAA tournament will matter. He's going to want to showcase his skills. I'm not buying all the stuff we've heard about him. I think he'll eventually be a 36-minute-a-game guy.
All right, there you go. I hope so, because you're right. It's not. I don't think it's national championship caliber this year, but Final Four if Peterson's fully healthy. That's where I'm at. All right, Kevin, have a great show, my man, and a fantastic weekend.
Thank you. You too, buddy.
All right. First conversation of 26 with Kevin Keatsman. Uncanceled is coming up next.